Well, Peter, this morning I went to church
Hmm.
because it's a Sunday.
It is a Sunday.
And the priest dude was giving his little homily, his
Hmm.
little speech spiel thing. And in it, he was describing how he teaches this seminar or something, and he has these students, and a couple of them were involved in a marathon, specifically a marathon that happened down here in the city
Hmm.
today that I think is over
Chicago Marathon.
by this
Yes.
point.
Yes.
Um, and he was, explaining how like people how they like prepared for it and how it was like something about discipline, and he was, went on to explain how that connects to like the Bible or something. Um, but what I was thinking about is how it maybe connects to a little something that we were doing.
It's the same spirit, I
Yeah.
think. Maybe a different sort of physical intensity
Hmm.
uh, that was required,
It's not a
but
marathon of the physically running
and the,
sorts, but it's something akin to it, I'd say,
it certainly takes a certain amount of energy to pull it off,
and effort.
and effort, yeah. But what was that marathon that we went through?
Oh man, it was quite the marathon, man. 11 Fast
11.
and Furious movies, and we're gonna talk about all of them
I can't
in
wait.
one sitting.
Yeah,
We're not getting up.
we're not getting up. I could spend hours and hours talking about this franchise, which is exactly what we're gonna do. Starting from where else do we start from other than the
Other
very
than the
first?
story of how we got to this, the making of this episode,
Oh,
Peter,
okay.
because
Uh,
if we can indulge the audience a little bit, we originally planned on making this episode. How long ago would you say?
2 months to 3 months ago
Hmm.
was the beginning of August,
Yeah,
roughly.
we were like, oh, we could start talking about the Fast and Furious movies because Peter
Yeah.
was watching them, and he's like, these would be a decent thing
We could
to
do it in
talk
chunks,
about.
like
Yeah.
watch a few movies, record our thoughts,
Uh
and then go back to it.
huh.
Um,
The original plan was to do it like in threes, sort of up until the end, where it would just be, I think, two of them
mm,
because it's 11. Um,
so
and
far.
yeah, well, we'll save that for the final thoughts, I guess. But like that was the original plan, and life has ways of working in strange ways, and
See.
we didn't really have the chance to do that since that initial like, hey, we should do this the next week or 2 weeks from now, and it kept getting pushed back and back and back, and sooner or later we just realized, or I guess you came up with the idea.
I came up with the idea after I kind of watched all of them anyways, instead of
Hmm.
taking breaks, and I just
Yeah.
watched all 11 back to back to back to back, essentially. And I was like, well, maybe we just talk about all of them at one time. Why not? You know? There is only, I guess, well, there is only so much depth that you can
Sure.
go into each of these
And
movies
some of
with.
these we might talk about longer than others, and
Oh,
forever,
absolutely.
however
They,
long
they are
they
not all
they
created
do
equal.
take. Yeah,
Mhm.
however long they take is fine. But yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. But before we even start talking about the first one, because I guess we'll just go in order of them.
Mhm.
I guess we could just say like a brief description of like our thoughts and feelings about
On the
them or something,
franchise?
just on as a whole, like as an
Yeah.
introduction,
Okay.
and then we wrap it up or something.
As me myself, who have been going through various numbers of
Mhm.
franchises and, kind of nitpicking them, and really throwing myself in the deep end with all of the ones that I've gone through now, I think I could say that the Fast and Furious movies as a franchise is pretty by the books, like like standard franchise. When you think of like a franchise film, it's been going on for decades now, and it has no signs of stopping. For better or for worse, there are some interesting movies in this franchise. There are also some really bad ones, but I'd say that is pretty standard
Hmm.
for what to expect when you're going into movies like these. So, overall opinion on the not Final Fantasy
Final Fantasy.
franchise.
I was
Fast
gonna
and
make that
Furious
joke
franchise. Oh,
later.
it's gonna happen multiple times, I could tell. I would give it a hesitant thumbs up.
Okay.
That's where I'm at right
Okay.
now.
All right. Yeah, I originally watched these around 2 years ago, and that was before Fast X came out. So I saw Fast X like a few months after that was released, um, and I watched these like one per week, and that was more than enough
Probably a better way
for
of going
me.
about it. Yeah.
And my thoughts and feelings of those at that time was just like, this is stupid and I don't like them. And my ratings overall for them have either remained the same or gone up. Not
Is
not
why.
because I appreciate the movies
No,
more,
no.
just because I've seen more bad ones since then.
Yeah.
And so like my standard for what constitutes a good or bad movie has shifted a little bit, and some of them I realize aren't as bad as some other ones that I've seen. So that's
really
the
are.
adjustment.
Yeah, it's impressive.
But so we agreed to do all in one exactly 1 week ago. We're recording this on a Sunday. Last week on Sunday, we're like, okay, next week we'll do them all in one go. And before that, I had rewatched the first one and the second one 2 months ago when we were originally planning the
doing
stuff.
The first three.
And then for the third one, I was like, because it got delayed 1 week. So for the third one, I was like, oh, I'll just watch that when it comes to, closer up. And so I basically had to watch 3 through 10 along with Hobbs and Shaw by today.
By today.
And so
within a week.
And so Monday I'm ready to watch my movie. I log in, I go into Letterboxd, I go through my watch list. I'm like, all right, what should I pick out today? And I decided on Being There, which was a movie that's been in my watch list for a long time. I'm like, I'm gonna set up myself with a really nice, sort of calm, well-made film. And I find the fucking thing, and as I'm about to click play on it,
Something you're forgetting.
I have to watch
something you're forgetting.
all the Fast and Furious movies by Sunday. And so Monday was the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift and Fast and Furious, which is the fourth
The names
one.
are going to be fucked up.
Tuesday, I'm going to try to see if I can remember right now. Tuesday was Fast 5 and Fast and Furious 6. Wednesday was Furious 7 and The Fate of the Furious. And then after that, I could just do one. So I wasn't doing two in one day, Peter. I felt like it's comparable to back in our school dates or something along those lines. Like I was never one to cram for anything. I would partake in the great procrastinating. Wouldn't really it was more of like a dabble, I guess. I would still get my work done, but I would never stay up super late studying my ass off on one night before the exam. And I guess that's what this is. And last night I didn't stay up until 3 a.m., but I was spending the last of my waking hours reviewing each of the films, studying super last minute on the thing. Today I come here, I forget my own iPad or the printout.
That's
It's like an exam that lets you bring the note sheet one side, front and back. I forgot that.
You forgot it.
Coming in there. Luckily we had a buddy of ours lend me his. Definitely he consented to that. And then man, and I guess Thursday was which came out first?
Hobbs and Shaw,
2019,
I think.
Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, and then F9 on Friday, and then yesterday I finished it off with a good old Fast X. So it was quite the week to go through, and it was tough, man. I think every time I started one, I just sighed. I just oh fuck. Because those first 3 days, it was two of them
in a day.
In a day, and it was
I don't think I could do that.
No.
Yeah, that you took what I've been doing with all of my franchise watching
multiplied it a little bit
and just doubled down on it. So I mean, respect to you. You're a stronger man.
Oh, thank you. I did it for the fans, for our audience that we'll definitely have. It's hopefully it'll be for a good cause. And I guess my biggest takeaway this time around, 2 years have gone by since then. Like I said, most of my opinions were because I've seen more movies since then, but I have gone through other things since last I watched these. mainly I've played all of the Kingdom Hearts games, Peter, and in my opinion, this franchise is like American Kingdom Hearts for adults.
I, I can see the similarities. I'm sure
So,
we'll kind of delve into that.
so I could provide a brief overview of just, a couple things. It's got stuff of fucking people dying and coming back.
Yeah.
It's got
Team
people
ups.
people losing their memories.
People losing their memory.
And the team ups of like,
Of course.
I mean, that's just an anime thing in general, which this thing is very anime for Western media
Especially
standards.
once you get to
It's
the later
very
movies.
it's very anime
yeah.
with you got a villain and then they're a villain in one thing and then once they're like defeated, they're like good friends with them.
Yeah.
And they like almost mention that and sort of go into it in one of the later ones. And they don't do shit with it. Spoiler alert. Oops. Also, we'll be spoiling all of them. Not that anybody cares. But like, yeah, it's just American Kingdom Hearts for adults, and you just Kingdom Hearts is very power of friendship. Just replace that word with family,
And you got the same thing.
and it's the same goddamn
F-
thing.
What is happening?
It's the same shit, Peter.
Oh.
And both of them are long franchises with, they're making up the stories as they go along with each one. Sometimes succeeding, sometimes maybe not so much. And we will figure it out and discover and learn each and every one of them. And if we're here talking about them and trying to piece together which movie had what going on in it, and we mix up the specific event being in one movie that we say is in another, then I'm so sorry.
Yeah, please forgive
Oops.
us. Please forgive us. We need all the help and the thoughts and prayers that we can get.
So that's my intro, I guess. We could
right.
get started with the first one, which is called The Fast and the Furious, which is quite the title there.
2001. And what else can I say? It is a product of its time. It is like just one of the most 2000s movies you could think of. Incredibly corny and flashy and extravagant, but also the most grounded, without a doubt.
Totally.
It's essentially just a bit of a heist film. It's a crime drama, not much more beyond that. You got your undercover agent, your criminal group that he's trying to take down, infiltrate.
But then he falls in love with
Then he
the
falls in
fucking
love.
sister of the leader.
Of course.
Or something.
And, well, he also falls in love with our good old man Dominic Toretto.
Ooh.
Because who doesn't love Vin Diesel as Dominic Toretto? But this was the first time they kind of popped out onto the scene with...
Yeah, like everyone in this movie, like this is the first like big, I guess, sort of thing for them. Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, and Michelle Rodriguez. I guess everyone
what they
involved
became
in it.
known for.
Yeah.
And, well, for better or for worse,
Yeah.
this first movie was mostly entertaining, I would say.
Yeah.
I think it is super messy, just with how things are presented. But I think that has to do with the time it was made, and kind of the film style of like these kind of blockbusters where you get a ton of shots of cars and sexy looking women.
Oh, well, you get that in every movie.
single movie.
That's like the
Every
one
single
thing
movie.
they keep consistently. Every single movie
get one
has
shot.
one scene of them showing off. It's
Yep.
a car show, but they're just showing
A
off these
drag race of some
scantily
sort,
clad, somewhat naked women
Yep.
walking around and
Some
shit.
movies have more shots of those than
Yeah,
others.
some movies have multiple of them.
Yeah.
They always keep at least one of them.
It's always one. So that's how you know you're watching a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
And the first one, kind of laid the blueprint.
Misogyny
for
check.
Yeah, very much reminiscent of other, 2000s, 2010 movies. I'm thinking Transformers, heavy influence. But these were the first. And what did you think of the overall story?
Yeah, I mean, the story, Morty, fucking,
Yeah.
I assume it was filmed in like 99 or 2000. It for me, it feels a bit 90s, like I guess during that transitional period. And like, yeah, just very like 90s LA, everybody's tanned up, tank tops. Paul Walker's got like the shirt that's too big for him and the super long shorts and just shit that would not fly today.
No.
But I think it does have a certain style to it, whether it's good or bad. And this is honestly my favorite one
It's
of
definitely up there.
the franchise.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily a good thing when you have 11 of them. And the first one,
start
the
with
first, yeah,
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
that's probably not how you want to
Don't really want to peak with
be
the
doing
first
things.
out of 11.
Yeah, but to me, it's like, it's the reason it's my favorite is because I feel like, again, like you said, it's the most grounded. I feel like it's the most like personal. I feel like it has sort of the most like they're very technical about like what they're saying. Like they're like, I hooked up my smorgasbord 9000.
See a cool air intake, it's got a nice fogger system and a T4 turbo Dominic. See an AIC controller, it has direct port nitrous injection.
Yeah, and a standalone fuel management system.
V9
Yeah,
my
exactly.
accelerators and my hydro pump, the higher alert.
Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should. You're lucky that 100 shot of NOS didn't blow the welds on the intake.
My Wensleydale 4730
Yeah.
of my 1907 Chevrolet
900 horses of Detroit muscle.
pork rider fucking piston. I cooked it up and it gives me 4 schmeckens per schmoople.
The dialogue in this movie is probably the most believable, which comes with it being the most grounded story.
Yeah.
But also, I would agree that the relationship building is probably the strongest in this movie out of any of the 11.
In terms of like the character dynamics.
With like the growth that they go through
sure.
and the actual like stakes of like what's going on. It's just easier to believe in this movie than any of the others, which makes it stronger for the kind of avenue of like family, found family, family's everything, which was not as big of a theme in this first movie.
Yeah, they sort of made that more of a thing by the 4th or 5th one.
But for somehow it was the most relevant in the first movie, and like the it was explored the best, in my opinion.
But yeah, and like the technical terms, like they're either making that shit up or they're just being completely like honest about it, and that's the way it is.
I love the nitrous in all these movies. It became such a big.
They always do
thing
the
from these.
boost thing during the fucking race, and it's like too soon. And then
That's how it
the other
works.
dude has a bigger
That's
boost
just
that
how
they
it
let out
works.
later or something.
Yeah.
That happens in at least 2 of them, I think.
At least two.
And yeah, there's the emphasis on street racing and that being the main thing. And the biggest thing is it's stunts with cars. It's and
The craziest stunt in this movie was driving under like an 18-wheeler.
right, and that's like that's the very first thing you see.
Yeah, and that's how you know, like, oh shit,
Yeah,
they did
and
this.
it's a lot of practical work
Yeah.
across the whole series for the most part. They get like more and more CG near like the last couple of them. But for the most part, they are just like taking cars and just fucking smashing them into each other.
There's usually some
And-
great action scenes, and I'd say most of these movies, whether they do a good job of fitting it into the larger narrative,
Yeah,
as opposed to just like
weaving it in, and
Popping a
sometimes
movie
like
clip in.
shooting it. Sometimes like the editing on some of them are so whack and so just like because I mean if people listened into our little other podcast show thing that I don't know I may or may not know of yet, I was talking about Drunken Master and how I love how just the fight scenes they stay on them and stick on them for like so long, and like you really get a sense of what exactly they're doing on each times. And as we advance more in the series, we get more and more fist fight action scenes rather than just the car ones. For me, I like it where the car ones is the whole point. That's what sort of separates it from other things. I mean, like Jason Bourne, James Bond, they fuck around with cars and shit. But this one, it's like, that's the main thing it's going for is those action scenes specifically with them. And I don't know, for the first film, I also really like the way that they figure out about Paul being undercover, because he like one of the dudes on the team or whatever gets injured, he calls up the fucking using his police powers.
Yeah.
He calls up the helicopter. And I think it's a good scene.
It is.
And
it is.
the ending I like quite a lot also, where they race during his quarter mile like
10-second
home drag race scene, and they pass the train. It's kind of nice, and he hands them the keys, and he just walks off. It goes hard, I'd say.
Yeah.
If I could call it that, if I'm allowed to.
I think The Fast and the Furious from 2001, it deserves that kind of status. It worked for it, and it earned it for the most part. Whether that means it's a good movie is up for debate.
Yeah, and also Paul Walker is kind of beautiful, and his hair I like the best in this one, and that's it.
Yeah, his hair is always changing.
Yeah.
this is him at his, his most LA looking, it feels like. But yeah, he did. I think all of the acting was never the problem in these movies. They're putting their work in. They all do like pretty good performances.
Yeah.
With whatever dialogue they're given.
Yeah, they all feel like they fit whatever character thing they're playing for the most part. There's like a couple of them later on that I'm like, whatever.
I would say that the first movie is pretty, locked in with the movie it's going for, how it executed it. It's a bit dated. It's very corny, kind of flashy, gaudy, and all that, but it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And they executed it pretty well.
Yeah. And I would give it a 4 out of 10 because I like it that much.
I agree. I think it's a pretty solid 4. I unfortunately couldn't give it a 5 just because I can't say I really enjoyed the story all that much and like the various plot contrivances that occur without going into the nitty gritty.
Sure.
But
I mean, we could. Why
that's a
not?
thing
If you remember it, I don't. Is the thing for the first one at least.
oh man, they
Please
blend
tell me.
together. They blend together
Okay.
really hard.
We can figure it out together, maybe,
Yeah.
or the comments can if you describe it enough.
Yeah, there's nothing like specifically. Most of the ones that stick out are in the later movies.
Sure.
That's when things start to fall apart narratively and logically. However, there are like the inklings of it in the beginning movies where it's like, oh, this character will be suspicious of one character, and then they will find their way to weasel out of a situation through various means and kind of sidelong glances, and
There's a lot of
things that are
plot
a
threads that
bit-
just sort of hang there.
Yeah.
They're not really like addressed in any way. It's just stuff that happens.
indeed, which happens in all of these movies. But it was a little more glaring in this movie, I would say, just because of how grounded it's trying to be. I think they do a good job of kind of weaving most of the threads into a believable undercover cop who's trying to like stay hidden. But there are always small issues that kind of eat away at that, I would say, in this movie.
Yeah, I'd say that's all we got to say about that. We can move on to the next one with the genius title of Too Fast, Too Furious.
Have started to really enjoy how how franchises start to name each of their different entries. Recently watched all the Alien movies, and those have some of the strangest naming conventions. I would say Fast and the Furious has some of the strangest naming conventions for all of their movies. But
They
yeah.
explained one of them later on, which we'll get to for the Fast 5 through 6 and 7.
But Too Fast, Too Furious, second movie came out 2 years after the first one, and man, it feels like the same movie, just pumped a little more into like the outrageous and like wild and like we're getting crazy here.
Yeah.
Nothing near where the series will go on to, but this was like, oh, this is definitely a step up. This is a sequel, and we're doing things a little wilder, just a little more crazy.
Like in terms of like the actual stunts and like what they're trying to do, and like it defies physics to a stronger degree in this one, like the way that some of the things work.
Yeah, so one of the craziest stunts in the first one was obviously driving under an 18-wheeler, which is crazy, all practical.
Yeah.
And then in this one, we're jumping off bridges.
Oh, yeah.
We're crashing cars into boats.
Yeah.
Which is like pretty standard, as
By
part of the franchise.
By today's standard, it's
the
normal.
stunts in the franchise. But for this one, it was definitely a step up. Whether the actual storytelling is equally a step up, I can't say it was. I would say this is also kind of equally as corny. Where are they in this movie?
I think Miami.
Miami. Yeah, so not
LA,
it
feels
but also
that way.
beach. You also got, same shots of hot rod and hot ladies. It's just how it goes. A lot in this movie, actually. Like, this one was probably had the highest amount of gratuitous shots. But
I think it had at least 2 or 3 ass slaps in this one, which was the most.
this was the entrance of Ludacris as
Oh, yeah.
what we will see.
I loved his hair, his
This one
afro
was
with the
wild.
comb in it. He never brought that back. What happened?
He never did. Yeah, I think it was.
It plays
something
into a little.
left in
It plays into
2003.
a little theory, which I'll explain later.
Oh, theories.
Of
Okay.
mine,
I can't
yeah.
wait.
So we may or may not be recording this video on Peter's phone, and Peter's phone may or may not be capable of only recording shit for like 30 minutes at most before it just kills itself.
So
And
don't
resets.
mind if we
Yeah.
abruptly end and cut and come back to a thought that we were exploring.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it may happen.
Many
fairly
a
often.
times, not just in this video, but every fucking
Yes.
video we make until we
Pick up another camera
if that ever happens.
if it ever happens. But as we were saying, this movie takes almost a story reversal from the first one, where Paul is now Brian
Right.
is now a criminal because of what his actions at the very end of the first movie.
Letting Dom go.
Yes. And now he has to be forced by the police to become undercover again. So there's a lot of, story similarities with him being undercover and trying not to get caught and trying to prove himself to the criminal organization that he takes down this time. But with various changes, as opposed to having a big crew, he only really has his main man.
I love this character, Roman.
Roman.
How could you
I
forget?
can't
He's
believe
the
I forgot.
best character in the series.
Really?
I don't know.
I-
He honestly might be my favorite for some reason.
He's the most consistent, with
Maybe.
being played off as mostly comic relief character. But he has some of the most memorable moments.
for a lot of things, and like, comic relief in a series like this, is it deserved? Do you need it? I mean, maybe, like, why not?
Yeah.
In the later movies, eventually the purpose as comic relief sort of changes a little bit, which we'll get to when we get to it, I guess. But I don't know, in this I really liked the dynamic between the two of them,
I think they definitely hit
because
that best.
it's something similar but different from what you've seen before. They already know each other from when they were younger, and now they're reuniting. They don't really like each other at 1st. They're like fighting, and then once they finish fighting, they start scissoring each other,
Yes.
or getting ready to, or whatever they were
They're
doing.
super cute together.
Yeah,
whatever happens.
Couples
off-screen.
goals. Like, Eva Mendes thought she was gonna hook up with Brian. No shot.
There's no chance.
No shot.
No.
Once Roman's in the picture, you're done.
They
You're
do
done.
really love their female Latina cops, though, in this franchise, as we will see in the future. And Eva Mendes is the first one to show up,
Yeah.
and kind of throw a wrench into Brian's love life, as we will come to see. It's usually one of the driving threads that keeps him either on a case or locked into a situation that he will eventually find a way out.
And like they sort of set up in the first movie, him and what's her name in the first movie? The fucking
Maya?
I think it's Maya or
Yeah.
Mia or something.
Mia.
I think it's said Mia. Yeah, and like they're setting up the two of them to be together or whatever, and then this
Yeah.
movie completely forgets about all that.
Because he just doesn't.
And also Dom, like there's no mention to
No
like the first
mention at
movie
all.
really.
No.
It's like sort of stands on its own
Yeah.
for the most part.
Which was an interesting choice. It makes sense if you're going from LA to Miami,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously Brian was on the run in this brief period between the movies. But
Oh yeah, which there's a lot of interesting things that went down during that. You didn't watch the turbocharged prelude for Too Fast, Too Furious,
I
did
did
you?
not.
So you have no
I have
idea
no
what he was up
idea.
to and how he
There's
got
extended
from.
lore.
You have no idea how he got from
LA to Miami.
LA to Miami.
I have no idea.
Well, let me tell you, Peter.
Illuminate me.
He drove there.
You're saying police officer ex-police officer Brian O'Connor, known for his extravagant
Known for driving.
role in the Fast and Furious franchise, drove from LA to Miami.
I was surprised myself when I watched the turbocharged prelude for Too Fast, Too Furious. It's like a 6.5-minute short film, and it is the weirdest thing. I watched it on YouTube. People could probably find it that way also. And one of the comments was like, "This feels like a really long intro to a racing game."
Is it essentially
or something
like a
like that.
trailer? But
It's-
it's like 6 minutes.
It's just
so
him
not.
like going around, and he's like shots of him driving, and then
Yeah.
there's like a map overlaid on him, and like
Of course.
Indiana Jones, like Red
Yep,
Dot
yep,
and stuff. And it's like him, and he goes and he races to win money, so I guess he could pay for gas or some shit along the way. And he's like shaking hands with the random
Whoever,
people.
yeah.
There's a moment where he's in a diner and these cops show up. He's like, "Oh God, they might know me." And there's a cute little girl sitting across from him in the diner, and she later gives him a ride, even though I thought he had a car. Or no, she drops him off at a dealership where he finds like the nicest looking car that someone in the YouTube comments was like, do the technical terms of like what it was, and it's like, if you saw this in a random stupid garage shit, it would be fucking 1 in a million chance or
Historic.
whatever he
Yeah.
said. I don't know. And yeah, it sucks, and it exists. I don't know why it exists. It doesn't make
Obviously,
sense
to tell the story. The prelude
it's
to
so important. No,
the Too Fast and
literally,
Too Furious.
literally nobody needed it. I don't understand why it's there, but it's
Especially
only
because
6.5
it's never
minutes,
mentioned
and
at
it's
all.
inoffensive.
It's
Oh
never
yeah,
mentioned at all.
no one's ever gonna talk about it.
No one cares.
except for us.
Yeah, no one really cared about how Brian got from
Nobody
LA
cared about the
to
turbocharged
Miami.
prelude for Too Fast, Too Furious. Are you kidding me?
At least they found their audience in us or
In the
you
YouTube.
specifically.
Um,
But the story goes fairly predictably, I would say.
the villain in this is like, there's way less attachment to him than Dom,
No.
because there's that whole personal dynamic towards him. In the first movie, he saves him, or he's sort of like an outsider at
It's hard
first,
to-
and like
it's hard to
go
even
back
say
and
that
forth.
Dom was the villain. in
Right,
the
he's
first one, where
the
supposed-
villain
yeah,
quote. There's
technically-
it's really man versus, I don't know, fucking,
I would say
I don't know.
the Asian guy was more of like the
Oh yeah,
obvious
sure. Yeah,
antagonist.
he was like
kind
the
of-
bad guy.
and even the cops to some extent. But that was obviously the kind of subversion
Yeah.
that they wanted to tell with that.
And that dude wasn't like the main antagonist. He was just kind of a dick sometimes,
In the second one, there's obviously the larger antagonist,
like the
too.
mafia dude.
Yeah, and he is much more of like a threatening role, I would say, than any of the villains in the first one. Whether that kind of serves to his character development, he has no character. He's just like a big bad evil guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's like no like connection to them. There's like
Yeah.
one scene where they go to a bar and he's there touching Eva Mendez's butt or whatever, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. There's not much to him. There's not much like I care about it. I hope they really take this guy down because I hate him so much. It's like I'm not like feeling that at all.
At least he seemed like he was a relatively capable antagonist. Like it seemed like he was relatively smart, with at least being able to keep track of, Brian's and Roman's undercover escapades. Still not enough to escape the dynamic duo. And
Yeah. Which I'd say is the thing that holds the movie together, or like just the two of them
Yeah.
working together. I'd say there are aspects of it that I think are fun.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I would rate this movie fairly similarly. I
Same.
think it also stands on its own as like a 4 out of 10. There are parts of it that are worse, and then parts of it that are better than the first one, which is pretty standard. But I will say that I'm enjoying the character development of Roman and Brian, and excited to see where they go.
In theory.
Obviously,
But
go.
but they wouldn't let you for the next one, would they?
Yeah, that's the thing. When you go kind of expecting either Brian to go like hang out with Dom in the first one,
You
we're like,
introduced
no,
him to Roman.
we're going
Here's
to
my
Miami.
friend.
And then we come back and we meet and we have fun with Roman, and then the next movie, Brian who? Roman who? Where are we talking about? LA, Miami? What? No. Welcome to Tokyo. That's a pretty good, transition, I guess, if we want to start talking about it.
Yeah. I got nothing else to say about Too Fast, Too Furious, nor do I have anything more to say about the turbocharged prelude for Too Fast, Too Furious. I think we covered it.
There are many things to say about
Oh,
the
man.
third movie in this franchise. The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, made in 2006.
What a banger
What,
right here.
what happened? What happened?
So we got this dude Lucas Hedges, who's 43 years old, playing a 16-year-old. He's actually like
How did they
24
how-
or 22 or something. He just looks kind of old.
He looks
So he's got
extremely
that.
old.
He's got a big forehead,
Receding
not
hairline.
not the greatest hairline for his age, and then
No.
5 o'clock shadow up the wazoo.
At 16 years old.
Yeah, playing. He's like again. It's
guess
like
he's like
it's.
I don't know what age.
This is why it's like anime because
This one is
remember
specific.
in like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you got fucking bodybuilders going to high school. This is the American version of it. Receding hairline and fucking 5 o'clock shadow.
What a strange movie. What a strange choice
Yeah.
of a lead.
I don't hate him though. It's still hard for me to hate him, especially like every time because he does come back eventually,
Yes.
like
Any
occasionally.
character you could ever think of will come back.
Yeah, for the most
likely,
part.
in this franchise, he is. Yeah, I was glad when he shows up in
He shows up, like,
future
twice,
movies,
I
and
think.
it's just kind of like funny. You see him again.
Yeah.
But I cannot say I agree. I thought he was not good in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just his accent is super off-putting. His
Well,
like,
it's very southern. I don't know if that's his
It's very
actual
southern.
thing or if he's doing a voice.
I
or
don't
what.
know. I have no idea. I couldn't.
I didn't look it up.
I would say that in this movie it has the weakest cast of characters by far.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't really remember much about Twinkie.
Was that his name? How do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Because I remember they call him Twink or something.
Yeah.
I'm like 2006. It's a different era. But they're just like his nickname is Twink. I'm like, okay, slay. But instead, yeah, we have Twink and another girl.
Some other
who is
Italian broad, or I
attached
don't know.
yeah, the
They
bad
call it
guy.
that.
You gotta fight the bad guy
It's-
to win the girl.
It's like
stereotypical.
so they do the same thing twice in this movie where there's a race and whoever wins it gets
Gets the girl.
the woman.
Yep.
They do that in the intro scene
Yep.
when he's still in America.
Yep.
And then when he's in Japan, it's the same shit. It's like why do that twice in the same fucking movie?
His name is Lucas, I guess.
Well, that's
Like, I don't even know
the
profession.
actor
That-
who
yeah, that's
plays
what- I
him,
don't
Lucas
remember
Black.
his name.
I don't remember.
I have
either.
no idea what his name
You
is.
can look it
because
up right
he has
now.
no character development. His relationship with his dad is tacked on in such a terrible way. I couldn't care less. Like his justifications for like leaving America to go
It
to
makes
Tokyo
no
makes
sense.
zero sense.
It makes no sense. It's like he goes from school to school with his mom for whatever
he's
reason,
like-
and she
he's a
just
bad
gets
boy.
she just gets tired of it
And just
someday. Like, what a terrible parent! You're not gonna fucking move for your kid who just got kicked out of school again.
Yeah.
She's just like, I'm not moving again. It's like, what the fuck is nailing you to this shitty Texas town or wherever the fuck
I
this
have
is?
no idea.
And so he has to. The only option for him is to go all the way to Tokyo.
That's his dad's thing.
This dude from the south of the U.S. It speaks English only. He doesn't speak a single
Nothing.
lick of Japanese, and he gets on what I think might just be the noisiest airplane that has ever gone to Japan. Like if I mean you've been there,
I've
but
been on a flight to Japan.
you've been,
Everyone was talking like that. Yeah.
it would be over, right?
I
Like
would
they,
be-
they
I
would,
would be
you would
pissed.
be going somewhere else. It wouldn't be going to Japan because my understanding is that the people who live there are very, they like to be very quiet, specifically on their public transportations, and that would include airlines. But for some reason, everyone's talking and everyone's hollering.
Yeah.
Unless it's that much of a different
It's an
time,
extravagant movie.
2009 or 6 or whatever.
2006. It
Yeah.
was a different era, obviously.
People in
you don't
Japan
even
used
know
to
how-
talk. What
They
happened?
used to drift. What happened in Japan? Where did the drifting go? I was
This
in
movie
Tokyo
killed
and I
it.
didn't see anyone drift.
This movie
What
killed
am I
it.
doing?
All the Americans who saw this went to Japan to try it out, and they destroyed all the roads, and they
Yeah.
kicked out all the foreigners.
sad.
Nobody speaks. Nobody talks about cars. Nobody does anything anymore.
So sad.
This movie fucking ruined it.
Yeah, they did.
Peter.
They ruined a lot of things in this movie. I would say one of the only illuminating factors of this movie is Han. And I know you like Roman. I would say Han's my boy.
okay.
Han is my guy.
Were you would have been the person back in the day to be like justice for Han, that like
Yeah.
hashtag that was going
That was
around.
I
Like,
that
bring it
hit,
back,
that
which
hit.
we'll
That
get
was
to.
the most impactful death
yeah,
scene in the franchise.
and he is a great role also. I think in that
he's
movie
essentially
where
the mentor.
yeah, he's the mentor. He doesn't seem that way initially,
No,
but like he takes this
the reluctant
Lucas
mentor.
Black dude
Yeah.
under his wing a little bit. just like and did it to him, and then he makes him go do random tasks and shit.
Just drifting, just a ton of drifting practice.
Yeah.
Like there are so many shots and montages in this movie of him practicing drift. It's almost a Rocky kind of like structure to this movie.
Yeah.
Where you go up against your first drifting battle. It's not street races anymore. It's just drifting down like a parking lot. And,
Which I like the difference of that, and that
Yeah.
I'll get to my thoughts about certain things about that. But yeah,
but he loses obviously because you can't have him win the girl
Sure.
in the very beginning. So
and because he's used to like the American street
Yeah.
racing, this is like like literally a whole new world.
it's a
to him.
whole new world. So he is a fish out of water, and he has to, get humbled, learn his place.
Right.
What is his place here? I don't know. Seems very
just
lost.
existing.
It's lucky that the majority of his classmates that he could talk to are good people and people
And speak
understand
English, which
yeah,
I was
a lot.
Yeah, which
There's
I
a
was
lot
gonna
of characters
say.
that speak English. Actually, almost all of them.
Yeah, because Twinkie is the black dude, right? And I would describe him as a magical black man.
He certainly fits the stereotype of that character.
In Japan, it's a very homogenized country.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot of people who are non-ethnically Japanese there, especially I assume in 2006. And there's only so many people from outside countries, and I would assume that people of African descent are maybe the lowest proportioned like number of people there
Living in Japan,
and
yeah.
so like he's one of like maybe 3 black dudes in Japan. And not only that, he also goes
Everyone
to
knows
this he goes to the same school
Yep.
as Lucas Black. And not only that, but he sits down next to him in lunch in the fucking cafeteria without knowing him, and the first fucking thing he starts talking to him about is cars, Peter.
Baby.
Is
It's
cars.
always cars.
It's like what the
Because I don't know.
who summoned this man for him?
It had to have happened. It was always going to happen. It's destiny.
It's fate, we
It
could
is
call
fate.
it.
So the structure of this movie, there's just zero stakes. There's like the first 2 movies were essentially crime dramas. This movie was much
There's
less
some crime because
There's some
the
crime.
main antagonist dude is like the son, or he's the nephew of
Ties
a
to the
Yakuza
Yakuza.
dude.
Yeah.
Which they eventually meet, and I sort of like that dude, that character there.
Yeah,
At least I like the role that he
paper
has.
thin, but at
Yeah.
least he is like able.
You've sort of seen it before, and it's been done better, but I don't hate that exact type of character, the exact version of it, whatever.
The archetype that he played.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fairly empty movie. I thought it was very, very, very boring.
It's shallow.
You have like maybe 3 races throughout the movie that are like built up to, and in the meantime, you're getting paper thin development with your protagonist and his problems with his dad and school. And does that get worked out ever? No, not really. I'm gonna spoil that.
Yeah.
There is nothing that happens there.
And he's trying to bang the only girl who speaks English.
Yep, because you have to. He's a horny main character, as basically every character in this franchise is. And in between those races and the character development, you just have montages of him training and getting better at drifting. That is the extent of this movie.
And he's in high school, which is like
And he's in
it's
high
so
school.
because the
Where's this
last movies,
happening?
it's like the crime shit. Yeah, he's getting involved in the crime in high school, which again is very animated. You had Tokyo Revengers, which is fucking middle school, people beating each other up, and this it's high school, and like it's just like for me, Tokyo I think has potential in this series, in this franchise, specifically as a sequel, specifically for established characters who were doing stuff in America, because what you do is when you go from America to Japan, specifically with cars and racing, is all of a sudden your position in the car at the steering wheel is on the opposite side of the car, and the turns on the streets
Are completely
different.
It's very
and
strange
they
driving on the other side.
yeah,
of the
and they
road.
never mention that once within this. Like that's not even a thing. And like the style of the racing competitions are completely different also, which is the thing they emphasize a bit more, the drifting versus just the straight shot. And like you have potential there where you set up, say, Brian, for example, if we wanted to continue using his character, he's been established in the past movies of like, okay, he's had his arc of he starts off decent and then he finishes better, he like gets better or something, and then he goes to Japan, and he sort of has like that reset period where you're like, oh shit, I'm in this different place, and I'm driving on the different side of the road, and they're doing a different style, and it's like, oh, I'm messed up a little bit, even though I have this past experience. It helps me only so much.
It would have helped,
and it's
so
like
much to
a
have an
relearning
established
curve.
character. Yeah, just because like obviously you wouldn't have to split the time between trying to learn who this character is.
And they try to do that with like the establishing that he is doing
15,
trips,
20 minutes,
riding or whatever in America, but like it just there's no investment in like you said, anything that's happening.
Yeah, like there are elements of that crime drama that kind of show through, but it's just so much weaker. The main like bad guy, he's 16, 17 years old. I don't care about him. He's like a bratty Yakuza kid. Obviously, there are the more dangerous elements that are just hinted at, but because of the decision to have this take place in a high school, it makes all the stakes so much less, and the danger and like the death of Han. It's just like, where is this coming from? What?
And the way it was shot, because I reviewed that many times last night, along with his other death scenes, plural. And it is confusing, and like the way they shoot this movie, it's like there's so many cuts, and the amount of cuts get worse as the movies go on, and like it's just hard to tell, like even with the racing, like what shit is even happening.
Action legibility is just it's on a downhill slope from now on. Especially for like the races at least. But yeah, I would give this movie 2 out of 10. I thought it was not good, very bad. Not the worst movie I've ever seen. Not an enjoyable one with very few positive aspects. Shout out my boy Han. Love that guy.
Justice for Han.
Rest in peace.
I guess this will be the first time we ever agree on a rating, because mine's one above that at a 3. I admire it for being different, taking place in a different location.
This was their first attempt to get
being in high school. Yeah, like the choice of high school, it's like, why? I assume it's for the audience. They wanted to appeal to a younger group of
definitely broad
people, I guess. Or something, I don't know. And I don't know, for its differences and for what it is, I can't help but not like it, but admire it from afar. Like, okay, I sort of see almost that they had something there, and still by this point it feels like at least a little bit honest and a little bit earnest, and they are just doing it, they're tagging on that sequel name for the money or whatnot, but it still almost sort of feels like there's a little bit of passion and care, even if it doesn't fully come across that way, because it's not that good.
It is for sure one of the most unique movies in the series.
It's probably I guess it's the most unique because the other ones are very samey.
It is very much a standout in this movie. I would say for worse. They made decisions, and most of those really hindered it as a film. But as the series continued, they made more decisions, and whether that was always for the better, it's hard to say.
Yeah, well, one of their decisions is, they got a bunch of Peters going into their theaters at the time this was made. People expecting the Dom and Roman to unite or something, and that didn't happen in the third one. It also didn't happen in this next one, but the signs of it were to come, because in the fourth one it was all about, all right, we're going back to these dudes, Brian and Dom, and we're doing stuff with them, sort of.
Yeah. The fourth movie. Gotta drop the thes.
AKA Fast and Furious. Because the Fast and the Furious, that takes way too long. It's 2009. We're done with that shit. Shorten everything.
Drop the. It's clear.
Drop the does, plural. The 2 of them, that's way too much.
Yeah. 2009, different era. We're cleaning things up. Just in the title of the films, because this movie is messy, incredibly messy. This was a return to form, though, kind of getting back to your action heist. We're losing some of the crime elements, not even losing them, but they are losing the focus. Now we're getting pretty heavy into the action category of movies. Even more kind of extravagant shots. I guess we didn't really talk about the stunts in the third one.
Oh yeah.
They were serviceable. Nothing super.
There were cars flipping over other cars,
Yeah.
like when Han died,
in the kind of
and it
action
blew up.
parts.
That's all I remember, really. Though I mean, other than
Other
that,
than
it
that,
is
pretty
drifting
restrained.
and stuff.
Yeah. In this movie, I would say that we're starting to see the stunts ramp up. They're getting a little crazier. They're getting a little, less believable.
Right.
We had the international aspect of the third one, which was more, further away from the core set of characters that are now being developed in this fourth one. And they're obviously taking it to South America, across the border. We're getting worldwide now with these characters. Paul is
Back to his cop
Brian is
shenanigans.
an agent again. He's,
It's sort of
Why?
similar to
It's
the
like-
first movie.
yeah.
In a way, because I think it's sort of supposed to be a reboot thing, I guess, but it's also a sequel.
Yeah, it's the change is that while he's a cop, Dom obviously knows he's a cop now, so you don't get him undercover.
Right. There's not that sort of irony going
But
on.
there is also undercover because he's always undercover, and he has to infiltrate the drug running. What is Braga?
I don't remember.
Who is this bad guy?
I don't remember.
He's just a bad
in the fourth
Mexican
one.
cartel
I
lord.
literally don't remember. I don't remember most of this movie specifically.
It's
for
a
some
very
reason.
forgettable one.
Yeah.
This was the one where Letty dies off screen.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of the movie. We couldn't get the.
Did they?
actress
Is it
back.
the one where they go and they like show her being shot at night or something by the random
Yeah.
dude, and then Dom figures
Yeah.
out who that is in this movie?
Yeah, where the car flips
Yeah.
and he goes through his back to Batman Arkham detective mode. And he kind of has his detective vision, and he's like, "There's rubble here. There's car debris here," which means that the angle of the impact flipped the car, and she must have rolled here. But there are skid marks back there, so someone must have been. It's very kind of out of place and strange in this movie, but it's not the strangest thing that happens in this movie, which keeps it a little grounded. I don't know.
Yeah, and this takes place. So the third movie comes out, and then this one comes out 3 years later, and Han dies in the third one,
Yes.
and then he exists
That time
in
zone
this
is
movie.
very, very strange.
It makes no sense.
Han's existence in these movies is technically a flashback because the third movie, Tokyo Drift, we now realize happens in the future.
Yeah, it happens alongside the seventh movie,
Yes.
I believe, is what they say, or something like
It's
that.
very strange.
Because by that point, that's when you have the scene where Dom goes and meets Luke's Hedges character, which happens at the end of 3 and in the middle of 7. And it makes no sense really though, because I mean they I don't know, because why even does it exist that way? Is it only because of Han? I think it's
I
only
think so.
because of Han.
They
and
just couldn't really fit it into
And
a cohesive
I-
storyline
and
timeline.
I really don't understand that. Like, why not just have a different character? Like, was it that essential? I mean, he was your favorite in the third one, and I guess a lot of people also liked him. But like, they fuck up around with the entire timeline just so that they could have this dude
and that's
in
not
a couple of the
That's
movies.
not the first. This is maybe the first time it's happened.
Yeah.
but it's not the last.
Oh, it's
time
certainly
it's
not.
happened.
Oh, it's
Where
certainly
they
not,
play
Peter.
around with the time zone, and it's just like, okay, we'll let you have your
I guess
fun.
this is the way
We'll
it
let
is
you
right
have your
now.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm not gonna hate on Han. I love that guy.
Sure.
He's probably my favorite returning character.
That's fair.
But man, this was also the movie that Gal Gadot kind of enters the story.
I think it was
for
just like
first time.
the first movie she was in.
Yeah.
Also.
She was like a villain character because technically she like worked for Braga, but you
Yeah.
know how they.
It was
work
sort of
through
like the
their
Eva
problems.
Mendes scenario. It
Yeah.
was like almost the same as Too Fast, Too Furious, where you have this
Yeah.
this bad dude in the cartel. The other dude was, I think, in the mafia. He might have also been in the cartel. But like they go out and they recruit these drivers like a small group of them, and then they have them
Just
test.
untested
They have them
yeah.
test these
So they
groups so
do-
that they could do the job properly, and it's just
Very-
replace
very
Roman with
trustworthy.
Dom,
Yep.
and it's the same. It's the same fucking thing again.
You
So
start
we
to
are
notice these
so
similarities.
we already have like it's a mix of the first two, I guess, where you got Paul, you got Brian and Dom again, and sort of their dynamic, I guess, is continuing. And then it's
Yeah.
just the
They gotta
same
work
sort
through their
of setup,
problems.
but they're working together to take down this other fucking organization thing. I don't even know what
The
was happening.
first half of this franchise is very disjointed with
Yeah.
the stories they wanted to tell, where I don't know if they knew like the core group of like actors that wanted to stay on, or
No,
like,
they didn't
just
know.
couldn't.
Because Too Fast, Too Furious had like two different versions of the script. They had the first version was if Vin Diesel would return, and then their B script was if he didn't, and that's the one we got.
And
So
then they had to kind of transport that script into this movie, which is not the fourth.
I guess that's probably
because
what
the
they did.
third
They
one-
probably reworked this
Yeah.
that first version of the second one into this.
because it's
Didn't
obviously
they?
you get very similar storylines.
I could see that
But the
happening.
only change is, I guess, they couldn't get Letty's actress. So
Michelle
now
Rodriguez.
she's
Well, they
dead.
might have. They just wanted to kill her
They
for
had,
some
like, very-
reason because the
guess
char-
that's true,
They
yeah.
probably wanted it for
What?
the
Because
motivation
she
of
did
his
head shots
character.
in that movie.
Yeah.
So I
I don't know. I
who
don't know.
knows?
I don't
Who
know.
knows? This movie is one of the most forgettable ones, I would say.
I would. Yeah,
I don't
one
think
hundred percent.
I can't say I disliked it as much as Tokyo Drift.
I think.
But
Yeah.
this, just because of how goofy it is, like there are much more. Obviously, as the franchise went along, each movie kind of upped the ante to some extent. There's always something crazier going on. This movie, it's not anything too insane, I would say. But that's only in context of what will come. Obviously, when we're talking about it comparison to the first and the second, shit's insane. Why are they driving through the border, which is through a mountain, through like a bomb shelter? And why is it just? How is that a thing? Why is the U.S. government they have no idea about this thing? They have fucking a set of like 8 cars just driving through the desert, through a mountain, pretty regularly. This is how they get their drugs through, or I don't know what they're running. I can't remember. Yeah, it's very goofy. I think that's the only thing that kind of like made me like this more than Tokyo Drift, because the rest of the story is flat, predictable. This is one of the more predictable movies, I'd say. None of the twists are particularly twisty, and the character development is basically just picking up where the first movie left off.
And sort of repeating it.
Because there's a lot of regression
The Dom and
with the characters.
Brian sort of go through a similar arc where they don't like each other, and now they sort of like each other, and now they fully like each other.
So they're
I
working
guess.
through the same movie again, which just made me not the biggest fan of this movie. I give it like a 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst movies for me, but not the worst.
Yeah. I forget what I rated it because I don't have access to my tools, my letterboxed. Actually, yeah, I do. I have my fucking computer right here. I can figure it out live on the air.
Oh, I have your letterbox review
do
right
you?
here.
You can pull
3
it
out of
up.
10.
Oh, 3 out of 10. So yeah, I mean it's the same shit. I think it might be slightly better than fucking Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if I like it more though. I like Tokyo
the
Drift
thing.
for its
That's
weirdness
the thing.
and for it
Yeah.
being a little bit more out there. And this feels already we're on the 4th one, and it feels very reminiscent
hat.
of
Yeah.
the two of them that came before it. Because again, it incorporates things from the first two, but not Tokyo Drift, which further makes Tokyo Drift that much more unique because less is borrowed from it.
It's definitely the black sheep of the
It is.
franchise.
Oh, it is.
For better or for worse.
Yeah. But that's not all there is to Fast and Furious, aka the 4th one, because there's this little
Another
indie short film extravaganza directed by the one and only Vin Diesel,
His
which
first endeavor.
no,
Was he doing the
he's had he produces on these movies eventually. I forget if he does it on the fourth one or fifth one, but he does start doing that at a certain point. He starts producing them, but he directed like two short films, I think, when he was a little bit younger, and they're just like I didn't watch them or check them out at all. That they're just something he'd started doing as I think he was trying to enter the Hollywood scene or whatever. And this one's directed by him, and it's called Los Bandoleros or whatever. I'm butchering that, but it's just bandits, but Spanish. And it's sort of similar to the turbocharged prelude for Too Fast, Too Furious, where it's an intro to how the characters are like getting to the point they're at
in the fourth movie.
And yeah, it's just them meeting up in Brazil, wherever they're at. I don't know, like, where does it take place?
Yeah.
A lot of them
Dom
take place
in
Rio at some point.
Dom is off the grid, and he is I believe he's in Brazil.
Yeah.
But obviously that's Los Bandoleros is the prequel to the fourth one.
Yeah,
or the fifth one?
It's for the fourth one. And honestly, it is better than turbocharged. It has a little bit more going on, and it's I've seen it described on Letterboxd as a mood piece, and honestly, that's kind of what it is, because there's not a whole lot of like plot. It's like 20 minutes long, and it's just the characters sort of hanging out in like a super chill way, and like Han shows up, and there's also the two dudes, Leo and Santo, who exist in this movie in the fourth one.
They're introduced in this
and
one.
they do stuff in the fifth one, and then in one of the later ones, and I really don't understand their existence, because they sort of just speak Spanish to one another, and they don't have any interaction with the other characters.
They are introduced in this fourth one, but I guess in Los Bandoleros is where they first show up.
If it was filmed first, I don't know.
But they're also not
they're not explained.
At all.
They're not explored or explained. They feel like tertiary characters. Like I barely even remembered that they existed.
But they show up in a lot of the movies.
I know.
So they're kind of they're part of the group. They're part of the crew.
Well, at least for up until the fifth one, because after that they dropped them. Which I understand, because like as an audience member myself, I didn't really understand what they were doing. And like when they show up in that room in the fifth one, when the like all the crew's assembled, like the fucking Avengers, it's like, what the hell are these dudes doing here, type of thing. It's like you barely even remember them. But it's sort of weird, and they exist within Dom's backstory in the fucking which one?
Los Bandoleros?
No, which one talked about Dom's backstory? Was that F9 or?
Oh, that's F9. Yeah.
F9. Yeah. So they appear in that, and they also went. Guess what? They went to juvie with him. They were in jail with him.
Yeah.
You know how another relationship where two characters met through juvie, Brian and fucking Roman. Wow. They just keep borrowing the same shit, Peter. But it gets worse.
I would never accuse the franchise of Fast and
for stealing from itself.
Being original.
For being.
Never.
Yeah, that's Los Bandoleros or whatever. It has a lot of Dom. It has a lot of Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez meeking out for some reason.
They do that.
Vin just wanted to film that, I guess. He's in the power. He's like, we are doing this for a quarter of the film.
For 20 minutes.
For 5 of the 20 minutes, it's just gonna be us.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just make out in like a kayak or whatever.
Really sets the mood.
Yeah, it's a mood piece. It's a mood piece.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Not really.
Because she just dies. She just dies in the beginning of the movie. So,
well, that's what makes it so much more sadder. It's like when he's like in this club making out with like 2 South American ladies, and she just shows up and she's like, "Man, what are you doing, dog?"
Not with me.
Or whatever. Yeah. And yeah. That's all I have to say about that, though. I mean, it just exists once again, and they stopped doing these short films for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know why either, but I would say that with the next movie, Fast 5, things started taking. They amped it up big time. They stepped on that nitrous gas. They
didn't just step on it. They inhaled that shit, and they were like, I am becoming the car, and I am taking the wheel right now.
Because, man, if you thought that maybe Fast 4, which is Fast and Furious, if you're not catching up, was kind of extravagant with their stunts, which if you were watching these as they were coming out, maybe that was the case. Fast 5 is when shit hits the fan, and we are no longer on Earth. We are in some alternate dimension where we are, instead of following a kind of down and out criminal group that is like trying to race against, I don't know, in the first three, it's like small first four, more small contained kind of conflicts that they have. Now, they're essentially super agent spies that have access to incredible tech.
No longer is the biggest thing the street races and like, do we make $1,000 today or what? They are fucking infiltrating the fucking FBI headquarters of some random foreign country, and they are stealing everything and making riches or whatever.
Which I say I am for.
It's an evolution.
I'm enjoying where this movie is kind of taking the franchise. Fast Five is like the first one where like, okay, this is the blueprint that the rest of these movies have started.
For better or for worse.
For better or worse. All of the things that you might have liked or disliked about the first series is just amped up to 11, amped up to 12, and then 13, 14 as we continue along in these movies. And yeah, I would say Fast Five was a breath of fresh air. I was watching these like back to back to back to back, obviously, as were you. And this is the movie where I'm like, okay, we are no longer in Seriousville.
100%.
We are in, Clownsville. Just like
Clownstown.
Whatever is happening is happening. You're along for the ride. This is cinema. Okay. And I don't think this is where they peak with this style of filmmaking.
Oh, really? Okay.
With like the extravagantness of it.
I was going to say this is probably the best one.
This is
Fast Five, I think, is probably the best one.
Ones. Yeah. This is obviously where
Which is super strange for the fifth movie to be the best. That's weird.
Yeah. It's maybe not the best movie, but it's one of the best in the franchise.
The best in the... What do you think is the best?
You said that you really like
the first one's my favorite.
First one's your favorite.
Different from best.
Okay.
Because best is more like
we'll get to my favorite.
Okay.
My favorite's still a comp.
I think I know what that is because I saw your ratings also. I didn't know.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
But Fast Five kind of lays the seeds for what will come and what will become one of the greatest movies I've ever watched. Spoiler alert. But in Fast Five, we're just, back in Rio, we're in Brazil, and dealing with obviously corrupt authorities, but where that kind of overview, that like plot setup has been used in like a similar way.
They've all been recycled. That's the main problem for me with this movie is that it's like the Avengers of the series where
this one is
they want to reuse, because for one you got everybody coming back, and then from this point on every movie is going to be like, okay, we want all the characters back again. It's just going to be the same plots of we're getting the crew back together and whatnot, and it's got like the plots with like there's two main leading groups that they're going up against, so they always have to have like a leading bad guy and then the police or some other like force with like a main figurehead attached to them, and then they also always end on a highway or something because that's the only place where they could shoot the final scene. That's the only place that the country would allow them to shoot there.
This movie though has some of the most insane stunts. That
I love the safe scene.
The safe is so.
I think it is the
so
best.
I
think it's the best
so
action scene in the series.
Because
it's that perfect level of very out there, but still somewhat grounded, if I could call it that. Compared to the future things.
Yes. And we are still losing out on action legibility. The editing is very, very messy. The amount of cuts in that final sequence with the safe, I can't imagine trying to count them all. But it kind of works with the freneticism of the movie, the high energy, especially for it has a good build in this movie, I would say.
Because it's not just you hit that immediately. No. It's a lot of action scenes in between that. Like you got them because again they
This is the first
emphasize
movie with The Rock.
Yeah,
So we
exactly.
get The
And
Rock
that also
enters-
sort of, I guess, symbolizes the downfall that
when
eventually is
he
to come
enters
with the
when he enters
series.
the franchise,
Yeah.
the franchise.
Oh,
is
and
up for-
my theory from earlier, Peter,
Mm-hmm.
is that this franchise stars the highest number of bald men in any film series ever. Because you got Vin Diesel,
they
now
have
you
some
got
of
The
biggest
Rock,
names.
you got
Yep.
Roman, who's what's his real name? It's fucking.
can't
Wait, don't tell me. I know.
Yeah, you got it.
It's
Yes. Yeah,
he's on Spotify.
starts with T.
Tyrese Gibson.
Yeah.
I know that shit. And he's bald also. Eventually we get Jason Statham, famous bald Brit.
Famous bald man.
But like, you know, I think those are like the main bald men.
But we got a lot of
But
buzz cuts.
we
too.
have a lot of people who have longer hair in earlier entries, like
they lose
Ludacris, like Paul
Paul.
Walker, and their hair is missing
It's just
in
nothing
the,
there.
in the
It's
entries
fuzz.
that have more bald men in them.
Yeah.
It's like there's an effect I think that this franchise has that
wonder.
may or may
be.
not have happened to me, Peter. I got my hair cut yesterday
Really?
as I finished rewatching all of these movies. Coincidence?
Maybe.
I don't know.
You should have gone full.
I
buzz cut.
was thinking
in
about
honor.
it. Maybe I'll watch these films a third time
Mhm.
and I'll take the plunge then.
Yeah. But back to this film. There is so much to talk. This is the moment in the franchise. This is where
They really hit it
It
big, and
became,
it feels like this
like a
multi-million dollar,
blockbuster.
like fucking,
Yeah.
it's a movie.
Yeah.
It's a blockbuster movie.
which I enjoyed. I
Yeah.
kind of like this movie. I don't think it was good
Yeah.
necessarily, but I liked it.
Mhm.
Like I would give it like a 5 out of 10 with
Yeah.
like a heart.
The more I think about it, as like we
movie.
discussed it, I want to give it that also. I think I gave it a 4, which
Mhm.
I'll sit with for now.
Yeah.
Because like they still, I would say, sort of use the characters mostly well. Like every dude in this group is more or less given something to do,
Yeah.
except for again Leo and Santo, who just sort of exist. Like I don't know
They're
why
just
they're
like
there.
the extra guys in
Yeah.
a heist, whereas in like good heist movies, like in Ocean's 11, where you balance like a ton
Yeah.
of characters, side characters,
Which is hard to do.
It's hard to do, but you know that movie is obviously
That's the whole point
lauded
of it.
for good reason.
Yeah.
This is not the same. It's not on the same level, but it has just the wild shit that you could never have in an Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
This has shit that is in like a Mission's Impossible movie. This is where we are not in crime drama. We are in action spy thriller.
Yeah.
And it's like
something different,
What
for sure.
a change of direction.
Yeah, very few franchises. Like that's for me why this franchise is so notable, so noteworthy. Is like the way it changes over time.
Yeah.
Where you have the first two, which are sort of similar. The third one's completely different.
And I'm
the
glad
fourth
I-
one goes back to its roots a little bit, and then this evolved.
Blows it open. I'm glad I watched these because like most people know of the franchise
Sure.
name, but have like
They've
watched
watched-
maybe
they've-
2 or 3,
and they've
it's
listened to
the
people
reason-
talk about them like
there's
we
too
are.
much discussion on it.
Yeah.
You really have to experience them for yourselves. I think
Mm-hmm.
go out and watch them. Maybe not back to back or
Not every day.
But check
Don't
them out.
don't
Yeah.
fucking procrastinate on them or whatever. You gotta fucking be in school again
yeah.
doing that shit. But yeah, like I feel like it utilizes the characters in good ways and not just like giving them enough dialogue, but also like in the action scenes. Because in that safe
agree.
scene, for example, you got Dom and Paul chugging the thing
Yeah.
together, and then you got Han drifting around and bumping
Yeah,
into cars
trying
and
to-
stuff.
yeah, they're trying
And
to deter the
Roman is
police.
utilizing his
Yep.
fucking destruction derby skills
Yep.
of knocking cars and other cars. Like that's what I'm thinking when I'm saying this. It's like, oh, they're caring
Callback.
maybe a little bit
Callback,
about
maybe.
not a callback, but just like caring about like the existence of his past and like utilizing it in the film. Was that actually the point of it? I don't know. But that's what I was thinking when I was watching it.
Yeah, I don't think that was maybe the reason why they chose that, but I mean, it does fit.
That's
And
what I was
think it
thinking
is
when I
great.
was watching it.
Yeah.
Because it's like that's the thing he does. That's what he's known for. Because like they sort of some of them have like their own different driving styles. Like Brian and Dom sort of do the same street race
Yep.
thing,
Just,
which
like,
helps
gun it,
them
all
with that.
muscle, just straight.
And then Roman is used to the destruction derby,
Mm-hmm.
smacking into other cars and stuff. And then Han's got his drifting.
Yeah.
There's I don't think they were trying to emphasize that too much, but in my mind that's where it was sort of going, like where you got this crew of different styles of like things of driving styles, if you could even call it that, which is like kind of wild because not many other like movies do that sort of thing. They got people with different roles, but not like driving roles. It's just like there's one driver.
Yeah. And this is
But
where
they're all
the roles
drivers.
kind of expand, where it's not just about driving in this movie.
Exactly.
This is where you
They're
start
doing
to get more
parkour.
of the action.
They're doing fist
There's
fights.
Fist fights.
They're
gun
shooting
fights,
guns.
Lots of guns.
And that's sort of my problem also is like these dudes, they know how to drive cars, but it's like now you're putting
did
them in
they-
situations where they're just like
Fighting
they know
superheroes.
taekwondo
They're
and they
supervillains
know
that
how
they're
to
going
they know how to gun
Yeah.
safety and like how to shoot
Yep.
them and everything. It's like it gets
Where did
worse
you
as it
learn
goes
this?
along.
Juvie. Like
Yeah.
no, I don't believe this.
Was that one of the excuses
No, I
they
don't
gave?
think so.
Okay.
But they don't ever explain it.
They
So
don't. They
That's
don't.
like the only justification you can think of, especially because
I mean, Brian
we
is
know
a
their
cop.
backs-
He was probably given gun training.
Sure.
It may be hand-to-hand combat a little bit, but like not fucking
you're a
Tej.
street racer.
Not
What
not
are you
ludicrous.
doing?
Not ludicrous.
You're not. He's not even a street
Like
racer.
dare I call that ludicrous that he's
Ludicrous.
going up and fighting
Dare
and
you
beating the
say.
shit out of
Yeah.
people.
He,
like what the
yeah.
hell?
Like Ludacris is obviously the tech man that you get in like.
Well, he's sort of set up to be that
But
way
he-
in this movie, but
he
in
does more.
in the second movie, he's not that at all. He's
No.
the connections guy who's fucking handling the bets.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden in this
And now
movie,
he
he's
knows
like he's the
everything.
tech guy. Like what the fuck do you mean?
We don't have to think. Don't think.
When he
Don't-
was in juvie, he learned how to hack and all this shit.
Yep.
He broke himself out of prison through hacking his phone or whatever. So the fifth one is a very noteworthy entry in the franchise, I'd say. And I think I got everything out that I wanted to say about that. I guess specifically the exact part where, like, if you didn't already think the series was an anime, it becomes an anime in this movie, specifically at the time where Vin Diesel and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson do the fucking arm grab thing.
Of course.
They're enemies for the entire time, and then he helps them off the ground, and that's
such a
that's
quick
the
turnaround.
moment though that where it becomes an anime.
It's such a quick turnaround, especially for The Rock's character, where, you know, you normally, in all of these movies, there have been, like, the cops that are kind of bad, and, like, you have, like, an agent that you're going up against. But normally, you have to wait for, like, the next movie before they come back, and they're like, buddy. That just happens in one movie. Everything is kind of accelerated. You know, that nitrous gas, we're just pumping through in this movie, and I think it worked for this movie.
Right.
Maybe not a future one.
Maybe they did a little bit too much of that nitrous shit, or they put something else in it.
They got lost in the sauce.
Someone went wrong.
For sure.
But like, so there's the sixth one that comes out called Fast and Furious 6. They set up, so Letty, who was Dom's girlfriend and also the female driver of the crew, sort of, even though they didn't let the girls drive around that much especially in the earlier ones.
No.
Like Mia also did a thing in the fourth one where they hijacked the train.
Yep.
And she drove the car off, I think, or she was there doing shit. And they almost sort of let the female characters do certain action things in the earlier ones, but not really. They like pretend that they do. Like in the interviews for the first movie, like Michelle Rodriguez is like talking about herself, like she's hyping herself up, and her character, she's like, yeah, I'm the female driver and I kick ass, and like she does punch a dude in one of the street race places.
She's also, I guess, on like the crime crew where they're like
Sort of,
taking
yeah.
over the trucks. You can't really see.
Yeah,
who
they
she is,
did,
especially in
but
the
my
first
point
one.
is they don't emphasize that very heavily, and like she's saying it one way, and then within that same like interview thing, it cuts to the director, and he's like, "Yeah, Dom needed a girlfriend, so we got her," and it's like,
no.
and unfortunately, that's sort of what she is. Like, rather than she's just another driver alongside with them, but instead she's Dom's girlfriend.
She does not
for
have much character
Yeah.
development in any of these
Which is
first
unfortunate.
movies, and even
It maybe changes a little bit
in
with this one,
six.
Fast 6, Fast and Furious 6,
is
where she's
where
reintroduced.
she's dead, but she's not. She's
You thought
actually-
she died?
Yeah. Nope.
No, we
They
got
would-
Michelle Rodriguez back. She didn't want to come back for 75 million, but for 80, she'll do it.
We'll do it. We can make that work. We can make that work. I think she saw Fast Five.
And she was like, "Oh, that's a banger. I want to be in
that's
one of
actually
those."
Cinema. Maybe I can be a part of this again. And so she's back.
Yeah.
But guess what? She lost her memory.
So Kingdom Hearts moment right there.
Big
Memories have been lost. They've been wiped clean. And she acts sort of similarly to how she did before. There's like that, I guess, that unconscious state of like
Sure.
whatever. Even if you don't have any memories, your brain has adapted in the way that it has in such a way
Essentially, that's
that
the driving
you sort of act similar I guess.
That's the driving aspect of the whole movie is, can we win Letty back?
The driving aspects. Did you intend on that? The driving.
We can
aspect.
make a lot of driving puns
Oh, yeah.
with these movies.
Yeah. They just run on and on and on.
They
Which,
do.
because the first couple of movies are sort of nice because they're only like an hour 40 minutes. They're there and done more or less, and then by the fifth one, I think is when they hit the 2 hour mark or go longer than that.
Yeah.
And like each and every one of these movies, by the last 20 minutes, we're on the last action scene, and I am so done with it, Peter. I'm like, just please end already. And I feel that way
They
for
have
every single
started
time,
to get-
for every single one of these, and it only gets worse because they get longer.
They do. Yeah.
And yeah, the sixth one, Letty's character dies. But through a twist of events, she's back. And in the fifth movie, they set up this cop lady whose name I forget to be Dom's new girlfriend
Second
because he
girlfriend.
needs one of those
Yep.
at all times. I mean, if he doesn't have a girlfriend,
Dom
why
needs
should I
family.
care?
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And so they set her up to be that. Only
And like
just
they settle down.
only-
like they are like
they don't just
serious.
settle down. They settle
They
down,
settle
which we'll get to in a little bit. They might use something with that
Maybe.
in the future.
Who knows?
And yeah, they immediately get rid of her at the start of this movie,
Mm-hmm.
Fast and Furious 6. And it reminds me also of anime, Peter, specifically very male gazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
So you got this series called ReZero, and
ReZero.
there's a character in it. I'll try not to spoil it, but there's a character in love with the stupid, basic ass protagonist for no reason.
As
There's
you
actually a
have to.
couple of them who are, and there's like a main girl who's probably like the main love interest, and there's this other girl who's I guess another alternate one, and the alternate one is like, I'm not good enough for you, and you need to go, and you should be with this one because that's what you deserve, or something weird like that, and like something that like not a real human would do, because it's just like an imaginary character that exists in some like 60-year-old straight Japanese man's brain is just coming out, then it's that's what it is.
And now you have it coming.
And then
in this
it sort of exists. It's a slightly better version of it because at least they sort of justify it where it's like her cop. She entered the police force because her husband died in the police force, and she's like motivated to like fight against crime because of that. And so she in this movie is like, you know what? If I found out my dead cop husband was alive through a weird, wacky twist of events, I would also maybe want to abandon my romantic partner at the time to go search for them. And it's
And yeah,
it feels very silly though.
especially considering what will come to fruition in future movies.
It's
just
and it's not like they just drop her character altogether because they do have a particular way of weaving her back into the plot, which is only slightly misogynistic in some ways.
Yeah, but we will get to that. We have barely even touched on this movie.
Oh man.
Fast 6,
Oh, Fast and Furious.
where
6.
the British people are the bad ones now. We are going international.
Yeah.
UK, London.
Luke
and
Evans.
we get Luke Evans, one of the Shaw brothers, super agent, super villain. He's big bad, has super high tech. We are in Mission Impossible
Yeah.
territory.
If
right
we
now.
weren't already in the fifth one, we're here to stay here.
Yeah.
And excuse me, The Rock, what does he do? He approaches Dom and he's like, "Get the crew back together.
It's like,
we're heading out."
Why you look washed? Why you're retired now? What are you doing? I was about to put you back away, but now I'm taking you out, and you're gonna work with me, and we're gonna give you all the tools that you need. We got all the tech, we got all the cars.
Is this the one where Kurt Russell is introduced, or is that the fifth one?
I think that's the next one.
Is it 7? He only exists
I had
by
that-
that point? Check the cast of Fast and Furious 6.
I have it marked.
Oh, really? Where he entered
Yeah.
the fray?
No, it's not. That's the next one.
Okay.
Past 6,
Okay.
there's technically not super spies
Mm-hmm.
because we don't have a super spy agency. That, spoiler alert, will come in the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is just cop shit. They are working with not Shaw, Hobbs.
Right.
I'm sorry.
How could you ever get those names confused?
That's so bad. Hobbs. And he works with them because they are the best at what they do. Which, what do? They do anything you could ever think of. This crew they could do whatever. You have the greatest tech hacker of all time in Ludacris. You have the greatest martial artists and combatants with Dom and Brian. And then you have just obviously the greatest drivers of all time.
But I think Tej also fights in this one too.
I mean,
like,
they all fight.
they're all like masters at fighting until it's irrelevant to them. And I think in this one, because it's against one of the crew members of Luke Evans's thing, which Letty's a part of, the Roman and Han fist fight this one dude who's like he's an Indonesian fighter. I don't remember his name, but he's in fucking
the raid.
Yeah, the raid second one, or whatever, or the first. I don't know. He's in one of those, and he's like a fucking action stunt dude, and they're like fighting up against him, and it's like they're sort of getting their ass whooped. So it's like they're only masters at fighting until it's funny for them not to be.
Yeah, there's this movie. I'd say is a fall off from
100%.
The past 5 was.
I guess it's like a 25% drop off at least a little bit, or like 40% maybe.
Yeah. So the plot contrivances are obviously you're not trying to read too much into it, but when it takes you out of the movie is when you can kind of like poke holes at it, and it really does in this movie, where it's just like, what are we doing here? Why, like, the fact that you have to have like random death scenes in this movie in order to get like emotional payoffs. Or just like the whole back and forth with Letty being on the bad team. Can we get her back? Can we make her a good person again?
But then Vin Diesel can seduce her because he's showing her all of the scars that she has, and
it's so
Lord
romantic.
dumping it onto her.
It's so
like,
romantic.
You got this scar from me when I beat your ass.
Telling
in this fucking white beater tank top.
Epitome of telling a backstory and not showing. We have not seen any
they got
of Letty's
married, dude. What do you mean? What do you mean? They were dating. They were dating, but apparently they were married, Peter.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? They were wed at some point or another.
It's insane how it happens. But, you know, in this world of Fast and Furious, I've never count anything out. Everything, all the possibilities are on the table, and they will be explored to some extent. But yeah, this movie ends with the
airplane thing,
the airplane scene,
and Gal Gadot fucking dies in the dumbest way possible, because it's like I don't. They're like on two cars that are that are hooked up to the plane, and he's holding on to her, and she sees a bad guy coming up from behind Han, and she decides to let go of him so she could shoot with both hands. And then shoot. Can you not hold on to him with one arm and then shoot with the gun with the other? It didn't look like she needed to like.
It was.
She didn't need to use like another hand to cock it. Like she could have used her like teeth if she really needed to, right? I mean, I've never done that, but she probably could. But she didn't need to fucking fall off into the explosion,
into the turbine.
It didn't make sense.
She could have probably just fallen and avoided the turbine.
Yeah.
And just like landed on the tarmac. It would have hurt because they're going at however fast.
Yeah,
plane is
the plane might have been
that was taking off.
I don't think
for fucking miles and miles.
Was it even moving at that point?
Oh, it was for sure moving. It's been that.
It was just on the ground.
The plane was driving on the tarmac in a straight line
for a while,
for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not a great look if we're talking about consistency or logic. But no, I don't think we're talking about.
But also,
that.
like the other final action scenes all take too long. Like they're on that whatever straightaway on the highway for like. 20 minutes. Even though you would be, if you're going at the speed they were going at, you would be done with that with like within like 2 or 3 minutes.
We don't care about that.
Sure,
it's all the other aspects of this movie that kind of bring it down. I'm not interested in the villain. Shaw was pretty forgettable. He's like
Luke Evans isn't a bad actor, but he's whatever he's given, it's not a whole lot.
It's not a whole lot. The justifications for the team to get back together is paper thin in this movie. It just happens because it has to happen. The necessary death of Gal Gadot's character in order to get Han to be like, well, I was really trying to settle down with her, but and
we had so many plans,
Tokyo, but I have to go.
Which back. Their relationship is the most shallowest fucking thing I've ever seen.
But I'm like, shout out my boy Han.
I mean,
I don't even care.
Hey.
Let's go. Love that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is his first L that he takes.
Other than dying.
But that is what will happen. This was the first L that will lead to his second L of death. Because at the end of this movie,
his second L that happens for the second time.
Because obviously, as we all know, Fast and Furious 3, Tokyo Drift takes place right after
the sixth one.
this
Coincides with the seventh one,
Yes.
like we said earlier.
Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense.
And so, how old was Han during the third movie? Like, how old was this? Because
looked really young.
He wasn't supposed to be in
He
high
looked young.
school, was
No.
he? He was
But
slightly. He was
looked like
slightly
a
older.
college age kid.
But
Maybe
he looked the same age as Lucas Black, because Lucas Black looks fucking 35 at least.
yeah.
And Han, I don't know, because he's friends with that Yakuza kid who was in the
Yeah,
high
he has
school that he went to.
connections.
I don't remember if Han ever showed up at the high school, like if he was there. I think he picked him up from school, so he was like slightly older. Maybe a dropout or something. And again, the timeline makes no sense, because like 15 years has passed since like the making of the seventh and the third one.
Yeah.
And the third one probably took place during 2006 and not 2015 or whatever.
Is the seventh one? Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense.
It's funny. It's insane, and the movies just get even more insane.
He de-ages. He grows.
Yeah.
He grows younger or something.
But the rest of this movie, I feel like, is pretty forgettable.
Yeah,
It's
I
got
don't
your
remember
like
most of it.
standard bad agent, like Black Ops group that is doing their own thing, trying to.
Is this or the seventh one? Is the one that has Jimon Hansu, or is whatever his name is? I think that's the seventh one. Okay. Who's the second bad guy in this? Because there's Luke Evans' group, and then there's probably someone else who we don't remember.
Well, you had the Gina Carano's character, who was like working as like the cop, but then she's bad, and she was actually like undercover working for Shaw, and so she kind of betrays the group. What else happened?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It ends with Dom and Letty getting back together, because of course they do.
Yeah.
And he drops.
Didn't she say?
the
Or no, in the seventh
cop
movie,
girl.
I think at the end of that, she's like, "I remember everything," somehow randomly. But in this, she sort of just accepts the role she's in. It's like she can't decide for herself. It's just, I am this person now.
Yep.
Because the filmmakers decided it to be.
I can't remember if there was like a secondary antagonist group. I think it was mostly just Shaw's group.
Because I mean, it wasn't just one villain; it was a group of them. So I guess that changed it up a little bit.
But I don't remember what they were doing. Like, why were they?
They were in a warehouse. I remember at one point talking.
They were like trying to get things to do bad things, and so the cops and Hobbs had to get the good guys.
Calvin and
to
Hobbs
do the bad thing. Yeah. So that was Fast and Furious 6.
Wow.
3 out of 10 from me.
Yeah, I forget what did I rate it. I probably
3
did
out
it the
of 10.
same.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Just not much there. It's still fun to see how weird it gets and how extravagant it gets. But I would say the action and the stunts in the sixth movie just weren't as fun
Memorable.
or like memorable as like everyone knows the bank heist, the vault.
Yeah.
In 5.
I mean, in this one,
just
they do have the jumping out of the battle bus.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's, I think, noteworthy. I forgot about it up until now. But because I was trying to think, they had that one in it, which is Roman's genius plan, because he wants to lead. He wants to lead in this movie. He's like, I'll be the leader. And then Dom's like, all right, let's see what you got. This is also
when Roman starts to become his tropey ass character, where he's just,
Yeah, he becomes a cartoon character a little bit in
Mm-hmm.
this movie and some of the ones beyond.
You kind of forget that he actually like had an edge to him in the second movie. Like he was kind of like, he was a tough guy. He was gritty, and he like wouldn't take shit. And
he was sort of dumb sometimes, but he did. He wasn't like a complete idiot 100% of the time.
But now he is.
Yeah, he's just big cool.
Bullied by all the other characters in the group.
That's what he becomes.
It's fun, I guess. Maybe not when you do it for 6-7 movies in a row.
They do the same shit with him over.
It's the exact same. Yeah, this crew that we have established in 5 and 6 do not change in the next.
There are no arcs
10 movies
to be had.
So yeah, if you like them now, you will like them in the future, and maybe you get tired of that, which I think that would be understandable.
Which I don't know. Maybe that's for heist movies specifically. I feel like it's somewhat common with them. They have a lot of characters who don't change.
Most heist movies,
You got Lupin the Third,
franchises,
I guess.
you don't have go on for
Yeah, that's true.
10 movies, 11 movies.
11.
So it's a little different, especially when the heists become
Yeah, I guess.
as extravagant as they do in these. Speaking of, after 6 we go to 7.
Is this
Furious 7. We're
the
dropping.
one?
We're dropping fast. No more fast.
We're just furious because the point of their naming schemes for 5 through 7 is that it's supposed to be a new trilogy or something. So it's like we start with Fast 5 and end with Furious 7. It's like the names of Fast and Furious have to be on like either sides of them. That's the original intent of this. Of course, they have since gone on to make a couple more films because this franchise will never end. We'll die and it'll still be going, Peter.
Yeah.
Just think about it.
Well, I think it's something to celebrate that our future generations will get to experience the magic of the Furious 7.
The magic of Vin Diesel's face plastered
yes.
onto some random dude.
Yeah.
In the future, he's still doing the same stunts 40 years from now.
Can't wait. I cannot wait. But Furious 7. Let me hear what you have to hear. What you think about this movie.
I know where you're starting with me.
I have my thoughts on it.
And I mean, yeah, so there's some things I think better than the 6th one. I think there's some things worse slightly. This is the one that's most known for coinciding or being made directly after Paul Walker's death.
Yes.
Because the 3rd movie was released in 2013, which Paul died within the same year. And they filmed roughly half of this movie or half of his scenes before he died. So
this was
it's
released in 2015.
yeah, and
they were working with
it's done by James Wan, who's the dude who did most of the other ones. What's his name?
Justin Lin.
Yeah, so Justin Lin handled most of them. This one was directed by
James Wan.
So and I didn't really notice much of it. I wasn't really paying attention to that, so I didn't notice perhaps like directional differences. Maybe you did.
We'll get to mine.
Yeah, once we get to you, because I think I know what you have to say about this one, maybe. But like, it's a unique and interesting one for sure, because as an executive committee, when you're in charge of something like this, and one of your leads passes away mid-production, you have a couple of choices to make. You could either just stop it altogether, which is probably monetarily wise a very poor choice.
It's tough
for all the money that they're putting into it.
Yeah.
You could replace him with someone else and just reshoot the stuff again.
Which is a big gamble.
Yeah, and they decided to go with this 3rd one, which is just roll with what they got and try to patch in random things to make it look like he's still in it.
Yeah.
And so they
There's a lot of body doubles.
They bring in his brothers
Yeah.
to like act in with him, which like for the most part, if you are not aware of it, you probably won't notice it, honestly. I think they do it fairly well. If you do know it, then you'll notice it. 'Cause like that scene at the end when they're on the beach, it like if you look really closely at his face, because they're trying to film it in such a way where it doesn't show he's not facing forward, but like times where he's showing like 60% of his face, you could kind of tell that it's not him, which is really sad, honestly. And it's like it sets a really interesting mood by the end of it, and it's like something completely out of nowhere. Because in the previous films they sort of try to touch on emotion a little bit. In Fast 6, you have the end scene where they're sitting and eating dinner and they're saying grace.
Oh yeah,
or
we
something.
haven't really talked about that.
Yeah.
Barbecue
Exactly.
That you get in most of these movies.
Yeah, but I don't think they did it in 2. They didn't do it in any of them up until 6. I don't think, did they?
So you had.
I think 6 was the. Or did 5 do it? 5 might have done it.
You had the barbecue.
Yeah, but it wasn't at the end.
It wasn't. Yeah, exactly.
It was in like the middle.
Second one did not, obviously, because there was no Dom. So you could jump to 4th.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it was in that.
I don't think they ended with a barbecue, but I don't know.
Yeah,
that could be wrong.
But I think in the 6th one, because that's the one where Gal Gadot dies, and it's just a couple of them there at the barbecue, and it's like Dom, his girlfriend / ex-wife, maybe they're still married, I don't know the laws, and then it's those two, and then his sister and her boyfriend, and then 3 dudes, and that's family. That's what they call it. And I don't believe that for a single second when they say that in that movie. I'm like, No,
It's just
it's a
whatever-
group of
whatever
it's,
crew
It's a group
is
of
there.
friends. It's
Yeah.
a group of friends. 2 couples and 3 dudes. That's a group of friends. It's not family. It's just the people you hang out with.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Like you enjoy hanging
That's just
out
your
with them.
homies and 2 of your girls. It's like, what are you talking about?
Oh, family,
that's how they're.
man.
That's how
It's like
they're
when you're
portraying
friends, when
it.
you're such close friends, it's basically family.
And
You
so,
don't understand.
and The Rock in Furious 7, I think this is the one where they introduced that he has a daughter. They might have done that in the 6th one. I think it's in the 7th one though. And to me, like, that's further moments of like, this is no longer Hobbs we are seeing. This is Dwayne The Rock Johnson on screen. This is not a character.
No.
This is just the man.
This
He's like halfway between that.
This is all
Right now.
All of
It's-
this dialogue
it's
was
that
written up
transitional
in
period.
his contract.
Yeah.
Like he signed on to this.
Yeah.
And he is like, this is what I'm going to say. And this is how I'm going to act.
Yeah. For the most part, he does ad lib every once in a while, which has decent moments.
It's very much like a
Which he was a pro wrestler. He's used to that sort of like one-liners.
talk,
Like,
back
type
talk
shit.
and shit.
So he has that experience with it, and he, like that type of ad libbing shit. Like, there's far worse people who could be doing it. But like, yeah, it's not a character. It's not like a totally 100% like very scripted, very necessary thing. And I could feel this movie falling apart and the series as a whole. And if this was the last Fast and Furious movie, I would feel completely
Okay,
satisfied with it.
Yeah.
I don't love this movie, but I think like, if I died and if I was in a movie or something and the way they solved me dying was this movie and like the last like 5 to 10 minutes of like, the stuff that happened, I would honestly feel very satisfied because I think the send off they have for Paul is
it's
honestly handled
pretty
really well.
earnest, and it's done well with like a good heart. And obviously, I think all the cast and crew, they really loved him.
Yeah.
And loved working with him, and so his absence was definitely felt on this movie, and they did a good job.
All right, but I think the people have had enough of hearing me talk about this, and I think all of us, myself included, are itching to hear what do you have to say about this film, Peter.
Furious 7. Absolute cinema. I fucking love this movie.
Oh
I
my
think
God.
This is going to be our most divisive difference in scores because, man, I love this movie. I did not know it was directed by James Wan when I watched it, but I could immediately tell there was something different about how this movie was shot and just how
The action scenes, some of
over
them are
the
better.
fucking top it is. It is so ridiculous. All of the dialogue is just so corny and juicy and just like, are you seriously saying that? I watched this movie, I swear to God, must have been like 60% of the movie. I just had my mouth open, smiling, just like, what?
Like
what
a
does that
baby
mean?
watching your
It
fucking
was,
shit.
I think this movie is so much fun.
Okay.
Just with how stupid it is. It has to be tongue in cheek. It has to be self aware because there's no way some of the dialogue that these people say is real. There's
Do you have
no
a couple
fucking
lines
chance.
for us? Did you write down anything? Do you remember anything specific?
The absolute best moment is when I know he's a divisive actor, but when Dwayne The Rock Johnson takes his broken arm in a cast, flexes, breaks the mold off, and says, "Daddy's got to go to work." I knew I was
You
watching
stood up and
a
clapped,
mess.
and you came.
It was so good. This felt as close to 5 as I think any of the movies have come to.
Okay.
Just with how insane it gets, but also how fun the action still is, and how like pulpy and like schmaltzy everything is. Just like, obviously, this is where Jason Statham comes in.
Yeah,
as
and he's
Charles.
I didn't even talk about that.
We
He's
haven't
a
talked about
good
his film.
villain. He's maybe one of the better ones.
He's definitely the most memorable one
For sure.
Just because obviously he comes back.
He has a big
whatever. He
stage
has a
presence,
tie.
that accent, that look he has.
And yeah, he does good. Obviously, I mean, he killed Han or whatever because
But who
you gotta
cares?
retcon that where Han was actually killed.
Yeah.
Not because of the Yakuza, but because
He wasn't even
his
killed because of the
actions.
Yakuza. It
No.
was just some random dude in
Yep.
they were racing around and then some random dude T-boned him.
Yeah.
And it was just that. But it was Jason Statham
No.
all along. And the car didn't blow up because of a gas oil leak or whatever.
Revenge.
He blew it up himself.
Yeah. So we get Jason Statham being a super badass special agent who does the job of an entire Black Ops team. By himself.
He is a one-man unit,
a one-man army.
and that's, I guess, sort of what I admire about him. In the sixth one, you have sort of a group of dudes, and they're all very forgettable except for Luke Evans and Letty Michelle Rodriguez. And in this, it's him and only him, and he is going everywhere and somehow like getting out of every
much worse
situation.
They are blowing up skyscrapers at the end of this movie.
Is this the one where they drive through skyscrapers in this one also?
Yep,
that's this one
because they go to Dubai.
Yeah,
of course they go to Dubai. And
not?
every moment, it's just this movie is so full of peak moments. It's just so good. We have the most like the very beginning is where Hobbs's character, The Rock's character, is like taken out of the movie for a lot. He's not a big part.
Yeah,
of
he was
movie.
injured.
He's in the beginning and the end because he's injured in the very first.
They probably only had him for like so many days, so it's like we'll just fit you into. And he's like, give me all the cool
they
shit.
Used him
only
in the perfect way.
Forget about the middle. I only want the most important parts,
James
the beginning
Wan,
and end.
Absolute visionary.
Okay.
He has a very very strange kind of resume.
Mostly horror.
Mostly horror. But he's also done obviously.
Has he done other action stuff?
I mean,
I'm misremembering. Did he do Life of
Aquaman?
No, that was
he did the Aquaman.
Oh, did he?
Which is like that.
Since then,
kind of gave me the same feeling as this movie.
This over the top and this silly.
Wow, this is how am I watching this? It has to be self-aware. Like there's no way they're playing this off serious. Like I can understand why you might hate this movie if you think they're playing it off serious. I
got that feeling a little bit.
I can't believe they did that because of how insane some of this stuff is. Like the very first scene where The Rock is injured or whatever, they're fighting. He takes like a grenade to the chest and like is blown out the window from like the 5th story.
That's
lands
why it's
on
an
a truck
anime.
to save the whoever his Dom's ex is. Like
oh, the cop
he's
lady.
targeting
Yeah.
all of
Like him and
Dom's.
Jace, and even like that action scene is like again like filmed sort of differently from the other ones before. They got that one shot where they flip it like upside down as he like crashes him into the glass table.
Yeah, like Shaw has some of the cooler like action moments in this movie. But man, none of it is believable, and I will never believe any of it. Like I don't believe.
Well, I mean, any scene where The Rock is losing against either Vin Diesel and Jason Statham, I guess they could probably pack a punch, I guess. But it's The Rock, dude.
Yeah, if we're talking about bullet power in this movie has some bullet power.
It's all about that.
But yeah, I love this movie. I think it's so much fun with just how insane. I never would have expected to like a Fast and Furious movie as much as I did this one.
No, I know, and it took until 7 of them, Peter.
It took 7. Yeah. The ups and downs of this franchise are insane.
Could it have been because you watched them all like consecutively, and then like this one just sort of stood out large enough, and you were like, oh, a breath of fresh air.
I don't doubt it. Yeah, it was just like this was unlike anything I've been watching in the past week.
Because if you feel that way about it, it reminds me of my experience with Kingdom Hearts and how like I'm playing all these games that suck ass in a row, and then you get to the third one, and I'm like, I really like this because it feels more like a game and less like a shitty experience.
Anything with some sort of personality.
I understand that feeling, not necessarily applied to this franchise necessarily, but a similar one.
This is like the second, maybe third movie in the entire franchise that I thought had like personality and like some sort of like pizzazz. Like the first one, obviously because it's the first one, it's the schematic to everything, and it was unique and had like an original storyline, very unique. The 5th one was as we said, it was the new blueprint,
reinventing the series,
reinventing the wheel, and they did it in such an insane way. 7, I feel like
it's mimicking that, but like doing 5, its own thing, I guess.
But just even more insane. And obviously, we have left any sort of realism behind. We are jumping from skyscrapers. We are driving through skyscrapers.
Yeah, what was the scene before? Midair. What was the scene before they were doing the skyscraper stuff? What was the insane thing before that? I don't remember.
No, I was talking about the first like confrontation with Statham and The Rock and him getting blown out. Like just taking a grenade to the chest and falling from a 5-story building
onto another car and just being cool with it.
They're fine. Yeah. He's fine. Don't worry about it. He's fine. And then obviously they had some like decent action with like Statham going up against the rest of the crew. But
Well, Dom like chases him or something.
yeah, and they get
Eventually,
away.
they fight at the end
This
on like
movie is
the top
not-
of a parking lot.
This movie does not stick to me through its narrative structure or its
Okay.
logic.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
remember much of what happens, but I remember the feeling that this movie made me experience, and it was a great one. I love this movie. Even
Goddamn.
on a rewatch with like I was kind of like skipping through and like checking up when I was like refreshing myself for this video.
Seeing if you still like certain parts of it, and you were like,
It
yeah,
holds up,
this
man.
slaps.
It
This
holds
holds
up. It's just
Okay.
how did they let this happen?
I'm shocked that
Yeah.
you feel this way, because I remember seeing your rating for this movie,
And
and
you're like,
I'm like,
"There's no way.
Oh,
That's gotta be tongue in
this
cheek."
is his first fucking ironic film rating thing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you see that with people on Letterboxd, they like rate stuff very seriously,
action
and then every once in a while they rate like a 1 out of 10 a 10, because it's like they're like pretending that it's the
Yeah.
greatest thing ever.
No,
And I thought that's what
actually-
you were doing,
I think
but you're
this
not
is
giving
so
it a
much
10,
fun.
you're giving it an 8,
Yeah.
which is a little bit
This is
different. I
like-
guess I
I-
spoiled your rating. Oops, my bad.
No, this is a very well deserved 8 out of 10.
Wow.
I don't think it's obviously perfect just because it's a
Sure.
Fast and Furious thing, but for the movie that it's trying to be, I think it is extremely successful at it. It's by far my favorite
Okay.
of the entire
wow.
franchise.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: nothing else comes close.
No.
To it. Yeah, there's just I keep saying, but the personality here, I don't know if it's only James Wan or if it's
This is the only one
something
he's
to-
done, so I mean,
Yeah.
that might be the
Like,
magic part of the recipe that's
he-
been missing.
something about it. It's just like the energy and the humor all stuck with me in this movie, and just the scenes of you are just in awe at like the stunts, not because it's like, oh, this is Mission Impossible and Tom Cruise did all of his own stunts. This
Well,
is insane.
he's running and
how did
jumping
you
out of
jump
shit
out?
now.
You actually jumped out of a fucking plane and you skyscraper. No, this is just like, who even thinks about this? It's just pure
They
creativity
injected that
and
fucking
genius.
nitrogen into their veins,
They did.
bro, and they
Yep.
fucking thought of that shit.
Yeah, so extremely pleased with this movie.
Yeah, I'm shocked, and I wish I could match your enthusiasm for it. And I am really glad though that you got some like semblance,
Something
like,
out of this franchise.
like out of this franchise.
Yeah.
Because again, if people have been listening into our other little podcast show thing, they would know that you've been going through all these
A lot
big
of
ass
franchises.
franchises that have maybe a strong opener or two, or maybe they don't at all, and then they just
Go
repeat the same
downhill,
thing over and over and
downhill.
over again. And I'm glad that you know, at least through one of those, you found like a sequel that
It's
like you
weird.
could really get attached to.
Because I mean, this franchise has been doing the same thing over and over and over,
Mm-hmm.
and this one also does. It's a fairly these plot beats in this Furious 7 have been recycled from other movies in the same franchise, but the execution, man, is so much better for me in this one. I think the dialogue fits the movie so much better, where it's not trying. It's like it's obviously over the top and like kind of melodramatic, but it's also fitting better with the style of the movie and action and the stunts and everything else about it. I think this movie is so much fun.
Yeah.
Never would have expected.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did. You know, again, I wish I could match that, but I think I gave it a 3 or something. Also, I guess I took it too seriously. I should have been I should have had a different mindset going into it, but I knew I had to watch
don't
the
know.
Fate of the Furious immediately after, so I'm just like having a
Which
miserable
is
time
tough,
here.
because if we're talking about the Fate,
Ooh.
they could not stick with the.
It takes a bit of a
peak
dark
the seven.
turn.
Yeah, man, I don't know what it was about 7. It just had a magic that none of these movies have had, and unfortunately, they could not harness it for the return of the Fate of the Furious.
Oh man.
Because that
Paul is out of the scene. There's some new faces though that they get introduced, and yeah, it's more or less the same group doing some similar things, but there's a certain amount of lightness that is missing. Like you said, taking stuff not too seriously, the way you were treating the 7th one, your outlook on that.
And I don't know why I can treat the 7th one
Yeah.
like that when I don't feel the same about the rest of these. Like, obviously, I'm not very glowing on the franchise in general, but something about the 7th one made me step out of it and be like, okay, this is what maybe everyone else is seeing when they are looking at these movies. Just extremely over the top, fun action. But the rest of the franchise does not have that.
Well,
I'm like, why? What is that magic? I don't know, but I can tell you when it's not there, and it's not in this movie.
Yeah, it starts taking itself way too seriously. All the fun has been. It feels like it's been sucked out of it. Honestly,
Essentially overview the change, or like the gimmick of the 8th movie in the franchise is now that Dom is the bad guy. He's being forced by,
but not really,
Charlize Theron, who is one of my least favorite villains in this franchise.
Her thing makes no sense.
No shade to her.
Sure.
But, like I hate the villain.
Yeah.
But now he's bad. He has to be forced to work for her. For
how do they blackmail? We don't want to say it yet. We don't want to say it. Yeah, I don't know. What were you playing?
Elena, I think is the police.
Oh yeah. That's her name.
I
didn't remember that.
Was now kidnapped with
alongside
a secret child, Dom's child. Dom had a kid with the ex that he dropped for Letty and never looked back. Never even obviously Elena never told him about it. And Dom.
How did they justify that? She was like, she didn't want to tell him because blah blah blah. I don't know. Some random. They make up some excuse.
I don't care. It
never
made sense. It wouldn't make sense. The amount of retconning that happens in this franchise is really kind of impressive. I'm like, I have never.
If you want to look at it super optimistically, yeah.
I've never watched a franchise that plays so loose and fast with any of its established chronology that I have to kind of.
That shit's all over the past entrance of it each time.
It's like it's such a messy franchise.
Yeah.
And this one is particularly just like, it's not even that it's super messy, which it is. It's that there's no fun with this movie.
There isn't any fun. All the fun is sucked out of it, and it's just like, this thing that's again trying to be super serious.
Why is Dom doing this? Something must be
acting
wrong with
super
it.
edgy.
We have to get it back.
Marketing or whatever.
Like, what are we talking about? I don't care. Give me jumping from skyscrapers and driving a Lambo through the Dubai skyline. I don't care about why Dom has to be. Oh, it's because his family. That's why he has to choose between one family and another.
Mm-hmm.
Stop.
Yeah.
Think about why you're making these movies. It's not for the story. I don't care about the trials and tribulations of Dom. Dom is a paper cardboard cutout at this point. Sure, he has some good.
They only try to do something with his character until the 9th movie, where they introduce his backstory.
We will get to that. Oh my god. So when they try and do,
but it takes that long, is what we're saying.
It's so weird when they try and expand upon the franchise with like giving history or like movies to flesh out like roles that people have had. It just falls so flat. The best movies in this franchise are the movies where you get like a clean, concise kind of heist or story, action, kind of like drive, plot, whatever, and they just run with it and kind of explore it with like the most logically inconsistent ways that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
With these, where they're trying to tie it into like the larger narrative of the whole like series, and like as we continue to go on like Fast 9 and like X or whatever, it's just they're grasping at straws. They're trying to tie in a movie into a chronology that they are constantly retconning and like shaving away and like fucking up with. So they're trying to make a movie fit into something that they have already destroyed.
Something that's broken, yeah.
It's like, why would you even try? Why would you even attempt it? It just makes everything feel flat, hollow, and really stupid.
It should have ended with the 7th one, because honestly, that's like a decent conclusion to the series. Yeah. And it's like, it's fine, whatever. It feels like an ending to the franchise with that.
The death of Paul and like the kind of, the golden age of Brian's character going off in the sunset. All of the people end with, they're in a good spot at the end of 7.
Totally.
So why are we coming back in 8 and just retconning everything to go back to the way it was? There's no progress in any of these movies, which is funny for a series about racing. Mm-hmm. It's like we're not moving forward without a doubt. We are getting more extravagant and crazy, but the stories that they're telling are the same.
Yeah.
And they've always been the same. But now we're getting to the point where
They're not just the same, they're dumber.
They're
because like in this, The Rock gets arrested for whatever reason, I forget. Mr. Nobody's like, your time's up, buddy. And then he uses them to like rope them into a situation together for which I forget all the the exact intricacies of like how they get to one place to another. No, I don't think anybody cares. No. And they get The Rock in prison. In the last movie, The Rock like arrests Jason Statham's character, puts him into like this one prison cell thing in like a super tight whatever fucking security center. In the very next movie, they're across the hallway from each other.
Like, oh really? They're doing that now. Cool.
Like
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to explain that. That's dumb.
Yeah. And because of how long these movies have gotten, the only thing they're padding it with is awful exposition.
The exposition's so boring and so
a lot of it
it's so hard not to zone out. Like I was trying to pay attention because I'm like, I'm making a YouTube video about it. I better know my shit. I don't remember jack from any of these expository scenes.
Because now we're talking about Mr. Nobody. Mr. Nobody was introduced in the seventh one, and that's when like, okay, we're actually just super agents now. Like we're secret spies.
He's like some weird FBI agency thing. That's like, I guess it's separate from the FBI, and they're sort of like a neutral thing, but they're supposed to be good mostly. I still don't really know what the fuck they are.
You're not supposed to. They're black ops.
That's why he's Mr. Nobody. He doesn't exist.
So that was introduced in 7, which I think fit well with 7 because of how insane it is.
Sure.
It's like, oh sure, if we're going up against a single man who is a black ops army in and of itself, then sure, why not have a secret spy organization that will take the crew under their wing and help them set up and like deal with whatever. But now we're like having to continue with that secret spy organization and kind of jamming it into a story of Dom's dichotomy of being trying to be a
and that's
father,
the thing. Like these movies are too long and they're too bloated. They try to do way too many things and they succeed at none of them.
A lot of the terrible exposition comes when they're trying to explain the plot. Like Mr. Nobody is speaking on, oh no, Charlize Theron's character is trying to get this, and because this will do this, and we will have war.
Yeah, it's all just MacGuffin for the thing.
It's all MacGuffin.
And Charlize Theron's character makes her motivation for getting Dom in the first place makes no sense.
I don't even
because she's so OP.
I don't even remember anything.
She could just fucking.
She's already like she has a
she has the power to. She has the power to fuck with cars, and she she like is sending cars out of buildings and shit into the street and like causing traffic jams and everything. She could like her team can hack into these cars anywhere. I feel like the worst thing you could do is bring in a dude to work for you who hates you and wants to kill you. That's the worst thing you could do, and that's what she does. And I don't understand it at all.
What is her personal relationship with Dom?
Well, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
Like, she just knows about his existence because he's a good driver and he's a crime dude.
Yeah. Which obviously I feel like everyone in the world should know of, like Dom Toretto.
He's probably famous, I guess, in this universe.
Yeah, but man, not a fun movie. The only cool parts, I guess, are like
they drive on an iceberg
scenes. Yeah, like they kind of like the zombie car scenes was kind of like interesting, like as like an action set piece.
Again, it was super anime because it's like how the fuck it's just some OP random
exactly, and that will never be brought up ever again. Yeah. We're not like
it's like the Harry Potter books. You have this time turner device that you go back in time.
Put that away. No,
don't think that was only in that book. We're done with that. On to the next big thing.
Yeah.
Brent's an invention.
Yeah. Some of the stupidest moments were in the Fate of the Furious. So
tell me about them.
When I get the nuclear sub though. How did you survive that? They exploded the sub, right? And then you have that scene where all of the crew kind of drive their cars around Dom because he's just there in order to protect him.
Yeah.
It's just like, sure, whatever. I was just like, how would that ever work? Ever? Maybe in this franchise.
Yeah.
But it's just like
I do remember the scene where they're driving around in the streets and stuff. It might be the same as the zombie car thing, where they're like the OG crew surround Dom and they each like hook shot his car.
Yes.
That reminds me a lot of like of anime where you have this group of characters and then one of them turns edgy or evil slightly. and they all sort of gang up against him and being like, "Why are you doing this?" They're like trying to restrain him, not kill
But you
him,
just
and then he somehow breaks out of it in some
good.
random way.
He's the greatest driver of all time. He's got a muscle car that has 1,000,000 fucking horsepower, and it's crazy. Yeah, that is so bad because they, like, what? They just have like
They all had
it's in
hook
the middle.
shots.
Yeah, it's in the middle of like.
They love those grapple hooks. What movie introduced them? They love using those.
I don't know, man.
I guess there was sort of the
I think
scene.
so.
I guess
it had to be.
it sort of used something
Five is
like
when
that.
like everything got like introduced and like taken to all hell. What a this not a great movie. Not a great movie.
No, and so the Rock by this point is it's not Hobbs.
No.
It's the Rock. Last time we were halfway through that, which means that the last movie that Dwayne the Rock Johnson has ever acted in is Furious 7.
Really?
Since then, he's been in movies. He's been in movies,
but
he hasn't acted.
He hasn't acted.
Since Furious 7, where he gave a subpar performance as Hobbs, the character.
Yep. It's weird, his trajectory.
It just feels like this movie, like all the scenes that he's in, it just feels like a weird circle jerk. And this was the movie where, I mean, you remember people talking about the beef between him and Vin Diesel?
Yeah.
That was this movie.
Really?
Where Vin Diesel is a producer and he's like taking The Rock out of like certain action scenes. Meanwhile, The Rock and Jason Statham are sort of ganging up together, and the studio execs are like, we like these two together because they're fun dynamic in like this movie. And that's eventually is what causes the next spinoff, which causes Vin Diesel to be extra pissed off. Which honestly, from his position, I almost sort of understand. Like, neither of them are handling it in professional ways, because Vin Diesel is like halting production on this movie because of it. Dwayne the Rock Johnson's going to social media and like trying to like spur hate onto him. It's like they're like little children about this. The situation and
like a multi-millionaire blockbuster.
And these dudes are like 40 years old and they're like fucking up random things because they're petty beef or whatever. But as like from Vin Diesel's perspective, I almost understand it a little bit because it's like he was in this series from the beginning. I mean, the second one and third one, I assume the second one he chose not to come back of his free will. Like they probably approached him about it, but he decided not to, so he wasn't like invested in it. And then by the fourth one and thereon, it's like this is the thing for him. Like this is he has other acting roles, but like this is like his life, and that's why this movie exists. It's because of him, and like he wants this even after Paul. Like if he didn't have any say in it, honestly, this franchise would have been over, and we would have been cool with it. But this is his baby, and he's taking it through adolescence into adulthood, breaking him apart and like raising it in the shittiest way possible.
How old is Vin Diesel now?
Oh, he's like 50 at least.
And they're still doing the same old thing.
Oh yeah, and from his perspective, I almost understand it because it's his baby, sort of. There's way more people working on it than just him. It's Justin Lin is a big part of it also. But it's like it's his thing, and he I think was the guy who got The Rock in on it in the first place. Like him, like they're both sort of fans of each other, and he's like, hey Dwayne, you should come on this thing that I got going on. It's going to be awesome. We could fight each other and beat the shit out of each other and then become friends. It's going to be great. And that was the fifth movie. And now by this point, it's like you're inviting your kid over, like your children, you're inviting your friend over, you're playing with each other's toys or whatever. And then Dwayne's equivalent in this metaphor is like, I really like this one. And like, Dom's like, no, you can't take that. And like I do understand that perspective, but like both of them are acting rather childish about it.
Very silly.
But we do get a thing because of it,
I guess.
Which we could mention after we give our ratings on this one. Which for me, I think this is a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I think
or a 3.
I think I have it as a 3.
Double check,
but it's like it's a 2 or 3. It's not.
I think it's a 2 for me because this is a noticeable drop off.
Yeah.
I really cannot stand the Rock playing The Rock. I always get annoyed by that when the actors just do the same shit like every time. It gets annoying for me.
Yeah, they love playing with their characters and like putting them in weird situations where you get Shaw's a good guy in this one and Dom's a bad guy in this one.
Sure,
and wouldn't that be interesting?
They're flipping it around a little bit.
It's not interesting. It's just not. And the thinness of the plot really hinders these movies when they come to get to
Yeah,
over
and
2 hours.
the villain
long.
sucks, and the main crew has never been more boring.
No.
And I guess Natalie, what's her name, was introduced in the 7th one from Game of Thrones. What's her
Yeah.
name? Natalie something.
Dorman?
She's introduced as a hacker girl.
Oh,
Because we
yes.
already had Tej, but he's not
Yeah.
enough.
Emmanuel Ramsey is her character's name.
Yeah, Ramsey. She goes by.
But yeah, that I guess she is also part of the crew now. The crew is fucking ever evolving, but also never evolving.
Yeah.
And it leads to having movies like these where it's just nothing to get out of it.
Yeah, this is a miss for sure. And yeah, the next thing they spawned from this, Peter, was
A little spin-off.
yeah, something they call a spin-off. Because it's not The Fast and Furious, it's The Fast and Furious, or just Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, I guess.
2019.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the rest of the crew that we've all grown to love and hate. But instead we get a spin-off following Shaw and Hobbs, obviously.
Sort of self-explanatory, I guess.
And the whole movie is kind of pretty self-explanatory. We got two megastars doing an action movie together, and
that's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like.
In the worst way possible, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I hate this one.
This movie's not
I despise
good.
it.
It's really bad, especially the dialogue.
The dialogue
ridiculously
sucks. So this was directed by our good friend David Leite.
Leitch.
Is that how do you say it? Leitch? Someone.
Sorry,
yeah. And he we talked about a movie from him that we liked, The Fall Guy. And this, you can see that it comes from sort of the same person.
He's an interesting director.
Yeah.
Essentially, I'm fairly sure he's like a stunt.
He does stunt shits.
And he has obviously become more ingrained in directing as his movies have kind of popped off, where he's directed Deadpool 2, I think. Bullet Train now is his most recent kind of pop off, and Fall Guy, and Atomic Blonde.
Oh yeah.
And all of those, including this one, Hobbs and Shaw, have, like, I will say, pretty good action scenes.
This has probably
really
honestly,
great.
I hate this movie so much, but it probably has the best hand-to-hand combat fight choreography across the whole series.
Yes.
It's this one.
And he knows how to film action in a way that is very legible for the most part, and also like high energy and fits the story really well. Unfortunately, there is no story in this movie, and the action is only a small aspect of it for some reason. There are a lot of action scenes, but there's way too much time spent on everything else, and everything else really sucks in this movie.
Yeah, so I mean the Rock, he's the Rock by this point.
He's the Rock.
And you know, he has his daughter. Is this the one where he's at soccer practice and he's the coach, and all the soccer moms are like crushing on him?
Yeah,
it just feels like fan fiction for him, like that he's writing for himself. And then all the soccer moms blush when they look at me. It's like, what the fuck are we doing?
Okay, really.
And this movie stars Ryan Reynolds, who appears as Ryan Reynolds.
Fucking reason.
So you remember when I said I hate it when the actors do the same thing over and over again? Here we go. We got the second
same
dude.
character who does this. He
plays the same character.
He plays himself. Yeah.
And he has no reason to exist in this movie whatsoever. You could have had someone else, and it's just so annoying.
All of the dialogue in this film is written in such a way that it's essentially like it's very reminiscent of Ryan Reynolds, kind of like his trope of dialogue, and it's like that mix with the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's kind of dialogue,
where it feels like they're making it up on the spot, like cutting off each other, trying to be funny, or
it's
whatever.
just like really extensively long sentences. That
I mean
run
this
on
thing.
and
No,
be,
you
like,
mean
insulting, and it's just like, oh, we're super quippy, and it's so funny because we're like all insulting each other, and like we're having fun, and like it's super cool, bro. Just write a single sentence that doesn't come off like you're trying so fucking hard.
And the studio, whatever, they wanted to make this movie because of the dynamic they saw between these two characters with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and
where it's so funny because they hate each other.
On screen. Like which, I mean, honestly, in the 8th movie, that is probably one of the better aspects of them when they're in prison. No matter how stupid it is that they're fucking across from each other in prison. I mean, what the stuff they're throwing back and forth at each other, like I get it. I
That
can
was
see I can
more
see how
fun
people
than
can find that
anything
appealing.
in this movie.
100%. And probably more fun than anything in Fate also. And I get it, and that's sort of like I guess the main focus here. They also got what's her name, Vanessa Kirby playing, because they have to bring back the family somehow. So what's his name? Jason Statham has a sister who's 2 years younger than him. I think in real life he's like 20 years older than her. It makes no sense. Also, I think they go to Samoa in this movie, which is kind of notable because I don't think I've ever seen Samoa depicted in any movie I've seen ever. It's mostly just because The Rock and he's half Samoan.
I think.
And so they
Recently watched Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh, do they go there?
Yeah.
Or they have some characters from there? Because Taika Waititi
Exactly.
is from New Zealand, and that's close to that place.
Definitely crossover.
Yeah, and I think Dwayne The Rock Johnson's mother in this movie is younger than him. Like the actress playing her. I mean, she does look older than him, sort of. Because I mean, The Rock is
she's acting. Okay, they're acting.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie extremely soulless without the aspect of the action. We have Idris Elba being big bad,
and they introduced he's a super soldier. He's a super soldier in this universe now because they're just making shit up. This is in the creative hands of completely different people from the original. It is so far removed from the first movie. It feels like something else.
Imagine watching the first movie and then this movie.
These two movies could have been made separately from one another.
It has to be a different franchise. It has to be. It's like, but it's not the same.
And that's incredible. Not in a good way.
No.
But I was almost enjoying aspects of this movie because again, the dynamic between those two characters, they're like on the plane, they're like trying to whisper insults on each other while being respectful of other people and stuff.
Kevin Hart show up,
and then Kevin Hart shows up on the fucking
that
plane.
Kind of movie,
and it pissed me off. Where it's like, okay, now we're dragging our friends and random people we know to accept random roles where they'll be in there for 5 minutes and they'll take $10 million or whatever the shit.
That drag.
I know, and Ryan Reynolds he isn't in it for that long either. He's in there for like a couple minutes in one scene, but then he's in two of the post credit scene, which I think this movie has 3 post credit scenes or some shit, and Ryan Reynolds is in at least 2 of them, and then Kevin Hart's in there also. And it irks me, Peter. It really gets to me in a bad way.
It is really a product of the people involved, and I think that in this case that turned out to be a very bad movie that has no soul, nothing to say, purely meant to be spectacle, but trying to be something more than it is, with like trying to be quippy and like kind of fun and have dialogue, and we have 2 characters that don't like each other but they grow to like each other over the course of the movie. It's like, man, you could have done anything else. Just don't make this a Fast and Furious movie, or just don't.
They could have liked their dynamic and then just like made a thing with the 2 of them anyways, and just set up their own little thing there. I don't know.
Either way,
but the name probably helped with selling the movie.
Yeah. But yeah, it just seems like a vanity project. It seems like a series of.
It feels like fan fiction.
It feels like it was made to be clipped and put onto YouTube. Like, you know, those kind of movies where you just get
like the scenes where they're insulting one another, and the scene where they're like fighting dudes in the room.
Scenes. Yeah. And so it's essentially like a series of maybe 8 to 9 movie clips strung together in the most haphazard way. And then you just kind of find clips on YouTube 2 years later. You're like, oh, this looks kind of cool. Maybe I should check it out. But that's about all you get.
Yeah.
It's I can't. I think I would rate it fairly similarly to Fate.
Yeah, I like it less.
A 3 or 2.
Yeah. It does some things better. It's the hand-to-hand combat. That's like the only thing that's like better from this movie compared to the others. But yeah, I'd say I enjoy it less than Fate somehow.
Which is saying a lot. Yeah. So 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 1 out of 10. It's not a good movie. And it was a strange kind of spin-off to have, because it's so unrelated to the rest of the series, and then you just continue back after this kind of diversion, and then you come back with F9, which
Again, taking itself way too seriously.
serious.
For the first time ever, we are shown Dom's backstory,
like,
and
wow,
there's a little detail about it
movies.
that they've been missing out that they haven't mentioned yet.
No, where do you
He
get
has
that?
a brother, Peter.
It's like, what?
Dom has a brother.
Really? All this talk
He
about
already
family.
he already had Brian,
all about this
a
talk
brother,
of
but he has a
family.
blood brother.
He has a blood.
You would think they would mention that at some point or
I
another.
think if like he has spoken
this
on
movie
his
had-
backstory, like Dom has had moments where he spoke on his backstory.
In the fifth movie,
about
he and
his-
Brian talked about
even
their
in the
fathers.
first one, they talk about the father.
Yeah.
Like that's how he bonds with Brian. Is
Yeah.
like literally talking
Exactly.
about his backstory. And then actually, that was just a little bit of my backstory. I have more backstory in me. Trust me. There's more. There's more to me than I think you guys realize.
Yeah, and they do this weird like Godfather Part 2 thing where they're
Yeah.
going back and forth
And we have
between
like
it
different
as they,
actors
because
like
there's
playing the younger characters.
there's so much to it.
Yeah.
And honestly, the younger actors I think do a decent job imitating them, like
mean, they're
John
good,
Cena
yeah.
and Vin Diesel respectively.
Yeah.
And I think John Cena again, like he can't fit into this role of like being the bad guy because again he's another pro wrestler coming into the acting scene, and I don't hate him as an actor because he's sort of I guess the pinnacle of wrestler actors is what's his name
Dave
who plays
Bautista.
Drac? Yeah,
Yeah.
Dave Bautista. He's
Dave
because
Bautista and
he
John
feels like he's really trying and he's like doing different things.
John Cena has been pretty decent, I'd say,
Yeah.
in most of his roles.
In the what the fuck the
He was in the Suicide
that
Squad.
one.
He was also in he had his spin-off series. He showed up in Bumblebee or
Oh.
Sure.
Fred
He's
too.
shown up in weird way. Like, obviously, he's like a very recognizable face.
Sure.
So people will kind of sign him on just to have like.
I mean, during the Fred days, it was just playing a version of John Cena, and,
Oh,
and these by this point, he's playing characters, is
Yes.
what I'm saying.
Yes. But man, the rest of this movie, the actual like, the driving force of like this backstory that you're getting to explore between Dom and Jacob, his brother. Oh wow, the forced conflict and the lack of communication, like all of this, the entire movie could have been solved with. I mean, Dom never speaks or communicates with Jacob at all. Jacob doesn't communicate or speak with Dom at
So
all.
like how their problem occurred. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter that this is all happening 10 films into the series is just like, what could have
How did we
been
get
different?
here?
What, how, why, why?
Every what, where, why, how.
Like, what? Oh my god. I don't believe any of the conflict of the whole movie.
By this
is
point,
based
no.
around, the entire movie is based around the conflict between Dom and Jacob. Why is Jacob back and why is he evil?
It's not why didn't we mention him for 10 movies.
No.
It's why
It's
is he
like,
here now
oh,
all of a
yeah,
sudden.
like you never said anything about it. Yeah, it's like, don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
the one thing
we
I
need
do actually enjoy about their backstory is they have that race together, and Dom ends up winning, and this sends Jacob to
Yeah.
fucking
Keep
fuck off
driving.
and go away. And in I think it's the fifth movie or something. In the fifth movie, the group, four of them race against each other. It's Brian, Dom, Han, and Roman, and the four of them race against each other just for fun in like the middle of a mission, which is like another like
I
fun
think
cool scene in it. And Brian ends up winning, and he's like so pumped and proud of himself. And Roman after the race is like, Dom let you win, man. He pulled back last second. And what I'm thinking is I'm connecting to this to the moment in F9 for his backstory when he raced against his brother Peter, and he learned from that. Like he pulled back in the race in the fifth
should've,
movie.
yeah.
In the fifth
So then
movie
he could have
because of what
his
happened
brother,
to him previously.
his found brother.
Don't you-
Because
don't-
he didn't.
you get what
he
I'm
didn't
saying,
do it
though?
with his blood brother.
Yes.
it's all.
He's
it's-
a but he's
it's
a
like
it was
poetry.
all
It's like
planned.
poetry. Yeah. This is real. This
But, like,
is
that-
real next level film.
That's like the one thing that because I'm
you're
watching these
reading
all
into
at
it,
once and I'm
you're like,
reading
okay,
into
this
it.
is for sure something that they planned
Yeah,
out.
like I know it's not, but like I'm able to do that to begin with.
Yeah.
Like I know the author's intent behind that is not there, but like fuck them. Like I'm doing like when you approach a story, you should always provide for yourself first and foremost. The author can have one intention, but you can interpret it a different way, and that's my interpretation here. Is he is holding back intentionally now because of previous events that happened in the past of his life. It is cause
that we
and
are
effect
just learning
Peter.
about now.
Yeah.
Yes. So retconning everything. This series loves its retcon. It loves it so much.
For the first time now, he has a brother in a series that emphasizes family. The
Family.
word family.
Yep.
He is mentioning that he has a brother for the first time ever.
In 10 movies. Yeah. Cool. Great job. But yeah, the rest of this movie is just messy, super messy. I don't like the villain, who's this
Who was the villain?
rich guy that has is funding.
Was it the dude who looked like Germa? If you know who that is.
Yep. Yeah, weird, kind of.
Yeah, he was
European
very
guy.
forgettable, and
and
I
then there was
saw what
also-
they were going for, but he didn't have enough screen presence.
No,
It just wasn't strong enough.
he was
of
essentially
a
just
character.
funding Jacob to be Black Ops Force doing whatever.
They
In
always
every
put
movie.
investment into this one
Yeah.
dude because Charlize Theron is also in this. She
She's
got
also in
away.
this movie.
For some reason, she's captured
Captured?
by the dude. She's in
Yeah.
like this glass thing.
Yeah, Jacob captures
Which
her
I don't understand
somehow.
how that works because do they bring it?
Don't
Does she
think
go to the
about it.
bathroom
Don't
in
think about
there?
it. Don't
Does
think
she?
about it. Don't think
Because she
about
changes
it.
clothes.
I know. What?
Did they just let her
You
do
don't
that
need
in the
to do
glass
that,
thing
man.
to escort her somewhere?
But yeah, she serves as
And she has the
she's got
weirdest
the brains.
haircut in this movie,
It's
Peter.
bad.
It doesn't make sense. I don't even
She
want
had
to call
a
it bad. I know it's bad,
She had
but
a
it's
weird haircut in 8 too, 'cause
where she had
weird
dreads. Yeah,
It's
which
like,
is weird. I don't
okay.
know. I don't know if she could.
Sick.
She doesn't really have that look for dreads.
No,
It's a
I
bit.
don't
It's a
think
bit out
so.
there. I mean, she could pull off probably anything. Because if you put her haircut in F9 on anybody else, I would be like, that is the ugliest person on the planet. But
does
on
work
her, it's
when
like,
it's
okay, it's
like,
Charlize
okay, you're a
Theron,
supermodel
but she looks a
actress.
little.
It's like,
She looks a
yeah,
little slightly
you could
weird.
do
That's
it.
it.
Yeah, but man, she was just hand-fisted into this movie for
Yeah.
no reason. She
Gets away
kind
in,
of like
in
yeah.
the last movie.
Yep,
She gets
of
away in
course.
this one again
Yep.
because you think she's flying a plane, but it's actually remote controlled and she's somewhere else.
and so she's there serving as like a information kind of exposition.
She's
dumper.
like giving advice to Germa.
Yeah.
It's just what I'll call him.
and because he wants to do bad things.
Yeah, I guess.
Because he's
Again,
a bad person.
I have no idea who he is or what he is.
No.
He just kind of exists there.
I think this was was this the one that they had go to space, or is that the next one?
That's.
I think this is for F9.
Oh no, I don't know. Oh no, that is this one
This is
because
this
for Roman's character arc in this, he begins to
Yes.
have these what I was thinking to be fourth wall breaks where they are getting into these deadly situations. He's going in. There's like 20 dudes surrounding him,
yeah.
and he's
Right,
like shooting
yes,
at them
yeah,
wildly.
yeah,
and he gets
that's
out of
what
that
happened in
crazy
this movie.
situation,
Yeah,
and he's like,
fine.
"How did that happen?" And what I'm thinking is like he's going to figure out that he is a character in a story,
movie.
and he is like
'Cause that's what it was like, kind of-
he has plot armor. It's not just like these people are randomly
They're
missing.
trying to be meta with it.
Yeah.
And be like, yo, isn't this so funny?
Well, that's what I thought they were almost trying to be, but by the end of his resolution, he's just in the space car with Ludacris. They get launched into space because Lucas Black was developing this technology of attaching rockets to cars.
He has to come back.
Yeah, and
'Cause he's like
I
one of the only
don't
characters
know,
who has
I
to
admired
come
the
back.
way he was brought back. I guess
That
sort
was
of,
one
not
of the
really.
funnier ways to like bring a
Sure.
character back.
Sure. And they're in the car in space together, and he's like, the resolution to that is like, oh, I guess we just kind of had luck on our sides the whole time, and that luck might run out, so we should still like try and make an effort to not die and stuff. And it's like you were so close to having something weird
Why?
and unique here,
Yeah.
something weird and meta, and like
Could have been funny to explore. Like, it would have made it unique at all. Like, that's why any of the movies that we have enjoyed in this franchise is because it's been done something new and like kind of fun and fresh. Where like 1, 5,
Yeah.
and for me 7. Like, I understand you might not feel similar, but the rest of these movies,
Yeah.
like with the F9, you have a chance to do something new and kind of funny.
I mean,
and,
you have a
like,
chance.
tongue-in-cheek.
Arguably, you have a chance to do anything new with them with any of them. But yeah,
But I guess it's not real. Not real.
all right. So yeah, we had to cut again because it's not bad enough that your phone has to make us stop recording it every 25 minutes so that we hit it before the 30-minute supposed timer. It could be 29. It could fuck up. It's 30. It probably is. It's not only bad enough that there's that, but it also doesn't have enough storage or whatever to record this long of a
Struggling artist. Man.
videos and stuff.
Struggling.
I wanna call it the Pharaoh's curse, specifically because when whoever gets filmed by it is just surrounded by a great black sand.
It's a bit of it's chromatic aberration, rain and all that. You know, it helps. With,
That's the technical terms. I think it's the Pharaoh's curse. Something about it, Peter,
Yeah.
from Egypt. Someone's haunting us. They're trying to prevent us from our shining moments,
indeed.
but we won't let it.
No, because we have a lot to say on the Furious.
Yeah,
Fast
I
and
mean, I
Furious
guess we're
franchise.
almost done, but we still have a little bit more to say.
At least on F9.
yeah.
There's not much more to say.
There's not much more to say, but there's one major thing that happens in this movie, Peter. So in the third movie, you have this character Han. Yes. He dies. He blows up. Whatever. In the seventh one, or I guess in the post-credit scene of the sixth movie,
that's when you get the context to how he died.
Well, it's not I guess it's the retconning of the context of how he died, because he previously died by a random person T-boning him.
Yeah.
Turns out it was all planned out by Jason Statham trying to get revenge on Dom, and Han had a connection to him.
Deckard Shaw is the most badass person in the world.
Yeah.
Like, he can kill anyone he wants.
Yeah, and he did kill him.
Yeah. Except I guess Deckard Shaw is maybe not such a badass, and he is not very good at killing people because lo and behold, my boy, he's back.
Back from the dead.
Know Han would never go out in such a punk ass way. He's that guy.
And that old haircut is gone. He looks way better probably with short hair now.
Yeah, he looks old.
Like, in this movie, the wrinkles
you can
show
tell that people are
they're
20 years.
Yeah, F9 is probably the point
movie.
where you could tell, like, okay, they're old. Like Michelle Rodriguez is like the mom, like getting her hair cut shorter, type haircut. Which I mean, they are raising the kid now, Dom's kid.
Yeah,
and she just accepts it. Which also I forgot to mention because Elena's character is killed off.
Yes,
and I didn't feel anything for that because. What that does is that's actually better for Dom because he doesn't have to deal with the weird trouble, the drama. It's like, oh, she's dead. Okay, that's cool. Okay. I mean, my girlfriend now has to accept that we have to raise this baby. My girlfriend / ex-wife thing.
Now they are married.
I don't know.
They got married?
I don't
know. Are they already?
Should we pretend that we know for the fans?
They're already married.
And so we got that, and Han is back supposedly
back in Tokyo. He's been in Tokyo the whole time, and he has a daughter, but not a daughter. He's like found family and all that.
Another adoptive thing.
Who
never gets mentioned again. I don't think.
I don't think she comes back.
Not important enough. Not cool enough, really.
No. I mean, the actress popped off in Shogun last year, so
was that
she's doing well now.
Yeah.
But I guess
she doesn't need this series.
I recognize her in this movie. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Maybe this was her breakout.
Honestly, maybe I don't know. But and so Mr. Nobody is the key component in this fake death scenario, which they did not explain.
They said it was because of Mr. Nobody, and that's about all they explained.
Yeah, because I rewatched that scene like over and over. I'm like, where's the point where they show how he was in the car and then he was not in the car? They never explained that.
No.
He was in the car when it flipped over, maybe,
super spy
but
shit,
he wasn't in there.
It's super spies. They do it. They do that shit.
But I want to love the lack of care, but I just feel the complete opposite. I'm like, fuck this.
It's like it's not egregious enough.
Like at least come up with an over the top exact way. Like you pulled him out and you fucking ragdoll dummied out of the car. Like
you've done every
ejected
other
out of it.
Insane thing. So you could.
But it made no sense because they had to foresee him dying also, like
him getting T-boned by a random car.
Right. Well,
which was now not random.
Yeah,
no, it was still random.
Was it? No, it was Jason Statham crashing into him this time. It was him. I'm pretty sure.
I don't.
Because he did that. He orchestrated it. At least if it wasn't him directly, it was. I think it was him in the car though, because I remember thinking like rewatching the third movie's version of it. It's a random person that they don't even like put the camera up in their face. They're like from a helicopter shot. They like slowly get out of the car and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe I did this. Probably you can't see their face, so you don't know that exactly. But you supposedly by the way they're slowly getting out of their car. and I assume Jason Statham. Maybe my memory isn't 100%. I tried my best to cram all of that into my head last night. It all just flows together. Again, like I'm cramming for this shit, like I'm studying for the fucking exam, and I am failing it, Peter. I don't remember shit.
This movie, the franchise is it's unforgettable, but it is very forgettable.
It's both.
It's insane. It's
That's a good way to put it. And yeah, it's by that point it's like, okay, like is Han's character really that necessary that you need to?
Why did
he
they
is
bring
like
him back?
he is the main retconning thing.
Yep.
He is is he that important? I mean, he is cool, I guess, but
He doesn't really play a massive part.
No.
in even the movie.
I just don't know why it's so necessary, because they changed the ordering of the films.
Could have been anyone. His character could have been anyone.
Yeah.
But it had to be
Like he stood out in the third movie because all the characters sucked, and he was like moderately interesting.
Yeah.
And these other ones, he just kind of does nothing for the most part. He
as
eats
much as
potato
he
chips.
is my favorite
He
character.
thinks he's L.
That's just because like he seems like a pretty normal guy. He's just kind of
he seems like a chill dude.
Like,
yeah, and there's groups of like probably assholes if you met them, and if you met
mean,
their characters in real life, you would hate them.
God,
But Han would be cool.
Yeah, he's a guy I'd like to get a beer with.
Oh no.
That's the only reason why.
Oh yeah,
I like Han.
the Corona product placements. I rarely notice
it's
product
a
placements
Heinekens,
unless
the
they're
Coronas, or
that
anything,
noticeable, which I think was Fast 5 or 6.
More of a Corona man myself.
Yeah,
I'm
and
more
Pepsi,
of a Corona
course. They
man
love-
myself.
Yeah, there's a lot of egregious product placements throughout these
Sure.
movies.
I'm sure with the cars
But
and
they're
stuff,
not even
I wasn't
the
really
most
noticing
important
it.
thing.
Yeah.
It's not even the thing that like grabs you.
That's to me that scene is like the product placement scene, because it's like
They're
he
mentioning it by name.
but he comes out with like the
Yeah.
ice bucket from
Yeah.
like the commercials where
Yeah.
they're like angled at like the
It's
perfect
pretty-
fucking angle.
That one's pretty neat. Yeah. But yeah, F9, Han is back because he's cool. That's the only reason people wanted to see him.
They're making random shit up. It's a bunch of like three dudes getting in a room getting high. What if Dom had a brother? What if Han was back again?
Yeah, and then we could explain why he has that cross, because like that's Dom's thing, but like why? Like we don't know where that came.
We haven't even thought.
There has to be,
Why
like,
didn't
a
we think of
reason.
that sooner?
It's like, whoa, yeah, we should do that. And they did it.
Why did he? How did he get that
And
white tank top he
they-
got? We should go into that in the
It's
next
that kind
one.
of bullshit.
We're gonna see that in
It's like,
Fast
wow,
X 2. Just wait
It's
for
like,
it.
That was my dad.
It was from his
They gave
uncle
him my
that they never
uncle.
mentioned,
Yeah,
because he
of course,
has his
it's
dad
his-
who's like a good influence,
yeah.
and his
I know.
uncle is like the bad influence,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yep. Yeah, we have to.
Miles.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It did not happen in the sequel
Oh,
to
no.
Fast 9.
This
The
one's
10th
this one's
movie.
so rough. The
movie
10th.
in
It's the
franchise.
11th.
It's the 11th.
The 10th and the main shits,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's called Fast X. Roman numeral for 10.
Came out last year, and another miss on their big villain.
Yeah, Jason
do not
Momoa,
like it.
again, I think can fit into this franchise. And if he had to play a character, it would probably be someone a little bit over the top, someone sort of loud and obnoxious. And this feels, again, like an anime villain, like the way he is talking and the way he's like showing off himself. And like there's ideas at play here, like the way he's like dressing in all these like fun flamboyant outfits, and like he's doing his hair in different ways, and he's got his nails painted and stuff. And it's like sort of a fun, weird, different type of villain, but it's so weird and edgy. And the way they weave him into the story to justify his existence, Peter. We thought we were done with the silly
No.
shenanigans of
The
stomping
time
over
warping
each other
kind
and
of
shits.
Yeah, we love
Because this
these-
movie has two examples of it. The setup,
Yeah.
the first 5 minutes is Jason Momoa is the son of the villain in the fifth movie, who everyone forgot about.
Yeah.
The fifth movie has
Brazilian
a decent
crime
amount
lord,
of decent
whatever,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. And Jason Momoa was there all the time.
always there.
He was always there. He
He was
didn't do
actually
anything.
in the car right next to everything that was going on. He was there, and he actually got almost killed because he was there for sure. He was there.
Trust us, believe it. Don't rewatch it.
No.
He was there.
Well, actually, we'll show you he was there.
We'll show- just-
using maybe
just in
new
case you
shots,
remember it
maybe
differently.
completely new shots, maybe an entirely new cast of characters. But trust me, he was always there. So yeah, we get Jason Momoa's character being the big bad villain now.
And that's supposed to be like 10 years ago. He looks the exact same. He's doing his
Looks
hair in a
exactly
different way.
the same. Yep.
They try to make him look younger, I think, by giving him a suit that like the neck is like a little too big.
They
So
did
he looks
do
a
the
little silly.
CGI. They did the CGI on his father.
Oh, did they?
To like I don't know. They try and like de-age him.
Okay.
It looks bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that didn't work out very well. I think I don't get his character. Like, why?
I don't either. It's weird, and
I don't believe him as like a super threatening character because he's very like obviously
that
trying to be over
that
the
type
top,
of character
like,
is very difficult to have that.
it's trying to be like that
to
manic
be
kind of like
threatening
Joker,
and, like,
anarchistic,
weird,
like, oh, I'm gonna watch the world burn. But it just
and he's just like sort of hysterical about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And like I mean, if Dom is the Batman, where he's like very serious, like very straight faced the whole time, and then this is the Joker, I guess, where he's
like,
smiling and cackling and
we need
being
some
weird.
more depth to these characters in order to get that kind of dichotomy to work, and it doesn't.
Which I don't even think this franchise can attain that at this point.
At this point,
It's
hell no. Why would you even try?
I don't know.
To
do something different, Peter.
they really are just like kind of like playing with their toys. Like, whoa, what if we? Do you remember that guy? What if he came back and like, whoa?
Yeah, it feels like a bunch of like siblings, like family. They
Yeah.
like or friends. They like mess with their shit, and they come back a week later, and they're like, "It was this way. No, it was this way. My guy won."
He was always there, and he was there, and like he came back stronger, and because he's cool now.
And so, but like that's not even the worst part of it because they retcon that, and then when the first 5 minutes they show Jason Momoa's character doing that, and then the twist villain in the movie is the cop dude who's working with Brie Larson, who's the daughter of Mr. Nobody, because everyone has to be related to nobody. Everyone has to be related to everybody. And then the cop dude is evil through a twist of events. He was there all along, also from the beginning. Like what? And they're re-showing the scenes, except they keep going after the point where they stopped them in this movie to reveal he like walks on screen. To be like, oh, he was also there the whole time.
Yeah,
it's
genius.
that character is so shitty, and I don't care.
No,
Both
it was
of them
never
suck.
believable that he was going to be a good guy. He was the most predictable twist villain of all time.
Like even as a cop, he's like kind of evil.
Very strange to have, Mr. Nobody die. I can't remember if he died in this one or he died in the last one.
I don't think he died. He went off the grid is like the way they phrase it. So he's like hidden somewhere, and he might be
Swear to
dead.
God, I thought he died.
I don't know.
Why would his daughter
I don't
be
know.
in charge?
I
Why
don't
would
know.
they just pass it along?
Because they
like
need.
It's a fucking nepotism. Like
All the female characters they
FBI
introduce
agent.
after a certain point have to be related to somebody because it wasn't in this movie that they introduced the sister to the fucking Elena. Like
yes, it was in this.
The son of Dom's aunt
Yeah.
is in this movie because the only way they could introduce female characters is they relate to other characters who have existed.
Yeah, because Dom's
Which makes no sense because he was doing again. They're going back to their roots. He's doing a street race, a drag race thing. I think what's his name? Fucking Hector is there again, or maybe that was F9 or something. But a dude from the first movie was there in the street race scene. And he races against this woman and Jason Momoa and this other dude. And then by the end of it, he's like, "I knew all along you were the sister." And it's like they look nothing alike. What the fuck do you mean?
He knows everything because he stole all
He's
of
the main character
abilities
energy.
Because
He stole all their
the
memories.
various MacGuffins that have been introduced through Charlize Theron's villain, Shaw's villain.
Oh,
he
he's
now has
also still
access
in
to
this.
all of that. So he has like access to all the satellites because
No, he
the
doesn't,
satellites.
does he?
The satellites. He for sure has like he stole because remember he beat up Charlize Theron or whatever because he's so cool. He's such a intimidating villain that like he is obviously way more powerful than any of the other villains.
That is the most like anime scene I think
It's
I've ever
so
seen
bad.
in like a
It's
Western
like,
live action
whoa,
thing.
We have this one villain that we've already beat.
Yeah.
But like she can't even compare to how
I-
bad this guy
Well, I
is.
understand that approach to it, but the specific way of doing it where he walks in a room, he's surrounded, and then he's like he somehow gets all of the dudes, the fucking Black Ops dudes.
Check your phone.
He
Your
gets,
family's on the line.
He gets all of their
They're all
phones.
dead, or they will be if you don't do what I want.
He gets all of their phones to display supposedly live footage
feeds
of
of-
family members of
Being
them
threatened. Yeah.
fucking tied up and like being like begging for their lives.
So fucking extra.
It's
like now you
so-
work for me.
It's so over the
It's like,
top.
what?
It's so over the top, Peter. And then he just leaves, and
he
it's
takes-
just like, you guys can kill Charlize
Kill
Theron,
her,
which is another like super stupid
He loves
villain
walking
thing. Like
away
it feels
from
like
things
that feels like a James
that-
Bond villain
Yeah.
moment where it's like James Bond is like trapped, and it's like, I'll let the trap kill you, and then he obviously gets out of it.
Yes.
And but it's like, but you thought he had her surrounded, but she actually had a button to turn off all their guns, and she beats the shit out of 30 dudes.
Yeah,
Which, I mean, hey, that's fair. She already did that.
Kind of like a main character, like, bro. She is not one of the good people. Charlize Theron is
at this
good.
point,
Like,
she's now good.
with them.
Well, yeah, because Peter, have you not noticed the pattern of
Enemy of
bad
my enemy
guy,
and friend.
and then they're
Friend?
the good guy? Yeah, it's like they literally turn to them and they're like,
Yeah. So,
friend now?
family.
But Dom doesn't have friends; he only has family. That's a quote from him
And
from
we
the seventh
find
movie.
more and more of his family along the way as we go through that movie. Because now Jacob is a good guy, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
They squashed the beef at the end of the
I
last
don't
one,
I don't
as
hate
of
those
course.
moments because John Cena probably has experience with working with children in a professional way from like
Yeah.
his WWE shit. And like the stuff they get into, it's Peter.
the most slapstick kind of thing. Like they have like
He-
the boat that they put alcohol into in the plane.
It's not a boat. He brings a plane
rat.
through customs.
Yeah.
John
An
Cena
entire
brings
plane
a plane through customs
onto
and
the
puts
plane.
a plane on another plane.
Yep.
It doesn't get better than that. True, that's
is-
cinema
that is-
right there.
Yeah, that's too fast, bro. Yeah, the
That is
I think
unreal.
I think John Cena's kind of side escapades with the son, Dom's son.
They're not bad. Like the
Then-
child acting isn't that great, but I
No,
think like
obviously not, but
it's fine.
It's serviceable. It's the most entertaining parts of the movie
Maybe.
because the rest of the big stuff with like Jason Momoa trying to like face off with Dom is just,
There's way too many characters. They're trying to do way too many things. Like that was already a problem in the
also
past
like
for like
now,
5 movies.
jumping around the world with like
Yeah. They
insane
have like
amount-
5 or 6 different groups of characters doing
Yeah.
different things, and like the one group is trying to get Jason Statham for some reason.
And like Momoa's character is like everywhere all at once. Like he's in like South America, then he's like in Europe, and then he's in he's fucking around in Italy for a while. Then they go back to
Yeah, it's like Game of
America.
Thrones season 8.
It's very much the kind of
Yeah.
the logistics of the world are now thrown out the window
Sure.
for spectacle. And unfortunately, the spectacle is just
Yeah.
it's bland at this point. I don't think any of the set pieces really stood out to me in this movie. Besides like just kind of like, oh, that's crazy. How did they do that? Or like why who would think of that? Like we have a dam exploding now, or a fucking a boat plane being shifted to a plane and then flying out.
Just the fact that he brought that entire thing. That thing must weigh like 2,000 pounds at
He was
least.
just carrying that shit around in the
He was
airport
just on a strap
as,
on
like,
his shoulder.
carry-on.
What the
Like,
fuck
what
do you
the
mean?
fuck are you talking
That's
about?
probably
What?
weighs as much as a car.
Like,
probably
I mean,
less, maybe. I
bro,
don't know.
they were secret agents. They can go through TSA without any pre-check because they're secret agents, bro.
I guess. I
But
don't
they're
know.
also all wanted because
I don't
now
know what they are.
Jason
It
Momoa
changes
has
movie to
access
movie.
to everything. I'm realizing I don't
You don't
remember
like this
anything.
one?
I don't remember like much of what happened.
Mind wiped. Now you're the one experiencing the memory
It's
loss.
pretty insane the constant retconning and playing fast and loose with the timeline makes it a little hard to keep track of. Yeah, the only things like you can like really pin down movie to movie are I guess like which villain it is.
Which even then I don't totally know because the
I don't
fourth
remember
one.
what
Well,
like,
I don't know the fourth one still.
fourth one's the cartel.
But the fifth
Yeah.
one is also the.
Fifth one was
It's some dude in a bank.
Brazil. I think that he's just like corrupt.
I don't know.
He's just
He
like
might have been like a
corrupt
government.
politician,
Yeah,
I think.
maybe. I don't know.
Like Brazilian politician.
Yeah.
And then from 5 we go to like villain of the week.
It does feel
And-
very
but-
much like that.
Like I don't really remember why any of the villains are
No.
doing what they're doing,
No.
or what they were doing it like
No.
with. Like what were they accomplishing? What was Shaw trying to do?
World domination or
World
money
domination.
or something.
What was Charlize Theron's character doing? Oh, world domination.
I guess.
Oh, what's Jason Momoa's character doing?
He wants revenge.
He wants revenge.
So,
So
and
it's
yeah,
not
they're
world
reusing
domination,
the
yeah.
same concepts because
Yeah.
the 7th movie, Jason Statham, he's out for revenge.
Revenge, yeah.
Against
So
these
now-
dudes.
yeah.
So now it's just because they fucked
Yeah.
up his brother and put him in a coma.
Yep.
Jason Momoa's thing is, oh, he's out for vengeance because they killed his dad.
Yeah,
it's
fucked
this
his
the
life.
same thing again.
Yeah.
It's not doing anything new.
Why are
It's
we
just the same
splitting-
thing but worse.
Why are we splitting this one into two? It's because it's the 10th movie. So like it's
Did
it's a
you think
landmark.
there's going to be only one more after this?
Oh, well,
they
no.
they mentioned that there's
is
going to
it
be at least
part
two.
1, part 2.
It's part
and then
one of
part
three. Part one of three, I think.
for
Fast X. I think so. That's what I read
Oh my God.
last night.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that until
they're trying
yesterday
to-
either.
They're trying to pull a Spider-Verse.
I don't
on
know.
the Fast X.
Whatever.
What?
They're trying to do something, and they got The Rock back into it for the
Of course.
end credit scene of this movie.
Yep.
And it turns out another character is alive again, Peter. Who is that character?
that
Do you know?
Um,
It was at the very end.
even remember?
Do you not know? It's so important.
uh,
It's so important.
no.
Oh, Peter, this is gonna look
You-
so
you-
embarrassing.
yeah, I'm gonna be so embarrassed.
A certain Gal Gadot character, Gazelle, comes back in the Arctic out of a
forgot about
sub.
that.
Out of a sub.
Was that
I didn't
her?
remember it either.
Oh,
I didn't remember it either.
I don't remember that.
From the first time I watched it, the second time I was like, "Oh, what? That happened?
Are you
Oh
joking,
shit!
bro?
No, that
I don't-
happened.
How do I not remember
That was a
at
thing.
all?
It was when Letty and what's her name?
Charlize
They were
Theron,
breaking
they were-
out of the
yeah.
fucking thing.
Because they were
And
in
there
the
was a
Arctic
sub.
for some reason.
And
They
she
were
just
stored in the
she
Arctic.
popped the lid, and Charlize Theron was like, "You think my plan still sucks?" As if like
She
everything
was the
is
one who got
everything
out of
everything is
the
planned.
turbine, the paint
I
turbine.
don't know.
What?
I don't know.
She just fell on the
Well,
tarmac,
I would-
and then they didn't ever look for a body.
That's what we have to look forward to, Peter. And also, like, why did she even want to fake her death in the first place? Did she hate?
don't know. I
Did
thought
she
she was
hate
happy
Han
with
that
Han.
much? I guess she hated
Oh,
Han
I
that
guess
much.
so. I guess so.
Also, F9 had the moment where Han met Lucas Black, and that was cute, but that was
Yeah.
like 30
it
seconds.
was so quick.
and
Because
also-
Lucas Black was in there for like
Yeah,
10
but
minutes,
he showed up at the
maybe.
barbecue at the end,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which is where they met up. And then at the end of F9, they set up Jason Statham being back in the thing because he was not in most of F9. He was just in the last, and he
Right.
was like beating the punching bag. And Han had like he knocked on the door opened. Reveal Han is going to encounter Jason Statham, the dude who thought
That's
he
right,
killed
yeah,
him,
yeah.
and he has short hair. And then the 10th movie they film it, and he's back to the long haircut. So they retcon that also. Just retconning Han some more. It's like he had short hair. No, he actually had long hair in this scene. Because they filmed the 9th one when he had that one haircut, and then they refilmed it for the full scene for the 10th movie where he had the other haircut.
This franchise, it's so much. Like these most recent movies, who is writing them?
We can very easily find out, but I don't want to.
Without a doubt, names attached to it.
Sure.
Do I believe any of them wrote anything substantial for it? Maybe.
You think they got
I also-
ghostwriters writing the fucking Fast
I
and
would
Furious
believe
movies?
they fucking pumped it into ChatGPT. All AI. I would not be surprised.
At this point?
If,
Yeah.
if that
I mean,
explains the
yeah.
kinds of inconsistencies that we're getting, but like that's been happening for ages now
I
in the
know.
franchise. So it's just things to
It's
expect.
human error at this point.
It's choices to say the least, and I can't say I've enjoyed any of like the most recent
Yeah.
Fast and Furious movies
No.
at all. Fast X, like, yeah, they had the set pieces were interesting with like the ball rolling through Italy, but like,
But
why was
the
that a
physics
thing?
of that made no sense because
It
it
makes
kept
zero
it just
sense.
kept going.
It was
kept
really,
going.
it was kind of humorous.
and
actually.
and Natalie's
It was, like,
character,
really funny,
Natalie's
actually.
character, she's like not the driver, so she's put in the driver's seat for I think the scene, and it's
Yeah.
you can make something of that where you have these these action scenes of these good drivers, and then you put the one who's not good at driving in a big ass bus truck thing
This is
in
also,
a
like,
in
2.5
a city
hours long.
that has very narrow
Yeah.
streets, and there's like potential there of them just wrecking total shit, but it makes no sense because the ball just
No.
keeps rolling and rolling and rolling, and it makes no sense, Peter.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's way
And then
too
it
it's way too
explodes.
long.
And
It's way too
yeah.
long.
Give.
There's another very stupid moment about this that I remembered also. It's when the cop is lore dumping Brie Larson with all the history of the Toretto
Yeah, yeah,
family.
yeah.
And they're showing footage from the movies with all these wild camera angles and stuff. It's like
Where's the CCTV?
how the fuck did you get
It's
these?
drones. It's drones.
So
okay? They
am
got-
I?
they have satellite
if I were to
and
take this
drones.
literally in universe, are you telling me that this police force thing has been
following
recorded?
them the entire
The movie we've been watching is footage from them in universe. Is that what I am to believe, or am I just?
should.
I mean, what I'm actually supposed to do is I'm just not supposed to think about it. Is what they want me to think.
Obviously.
But
just turn your brain off.
if I fuck you. and if what the fuck was that?
That is how we've kind of been reacting
Yeah.
to all of these most recent.
And this movie is the worst in terms of number of cuts. I think this movie has maybe on average a cut per every other second, like legitimately, and even like outside of the action scenes, like they're just at the picnic
'Cause they're trying
together,
to
the barbecue at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like even then, there like are so many cuts,
Such a
Peter,
weird
and they
decision.
never let you linger on anything.
It's just trying to like see the perspective of everyone. You're trying to get a close up on everyone.
They want you to
You're
not
trying to
think
see
about
what they're
any
looking
single thing about what's going on. It's just okay. Next thing happened. Next thing happened. Next thing happened. It's like they don't give you time to breathe or think. And I think back to the first movie where again it's not perfect, but they at least let you think and breathe a little bit with it. And the stylizations of like where shots are shot at, like the camera position. There's like some thought a little bit maybe into it. And in this, it's just
style.
like, yeah,
This
there's no style to this. It's just corporate slop at this point.
It is all schlock.
Yeah. So the two other things about the 10th one that comes to mind, or the 11th one, Fast X, is that there's the scene where they meet Pete Davidson, and he's a Discord mod or something. They have Discord pulled up on his computer.
Yeah.
He's in like only 5 servers though, and I figured someone of his stature would be in a little bit more than them. So I'll just consider that to be the people making it not knowing really what that means for him to be doing that.
Yeah.
And I think there's also mentions of the dark web, and I always every single movie I've seen like uses that
Mention
in
the
like
dark web.
incorrect
Like,
ways and like so stupid.
No one has any
And
idea what
there's
it is.
a muffin there that's like some sort of drug muffin, and Han
Right,
eats it
yep.
and he starts seeing weird illusions. Which what drug would you say that was? Like shrooms or something?
Yeah,
like
LSD, something psychoactive.
would someone put that in a muffin? And also Han
don't know,
only
just eat
he
that
experienced
shit,
that
yeah.
immediately and only for that immediate scene in that one moment.
Because that's why it was there for. For one scene.
But like it's again, it's like there's no like there's no consideration to actually what's happening here. It feels like an AI wrote it,
It's
like
like,
what you
oh,
were
wait,
saying,
this would be,
because
like,
an
funny.
AI looks at all these movies and it's like, oh, people on drugs is funny. Let's put it here, and it's like putting no
It's like,
consideration
wait,
into how it
why is
actually
here?
works,
Yeah, like
or like what it is, or like why it's even in this movie.
why
It
would
has
Han
it
do
has
that?
no reason to exist in this movie, Peter.
And that's
Han's
just, like, one
eating
element.
eating a shroom mushroom.
that's one element.
Shroom mushroom. It's shroom muffin.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. That's all I got to
And
say
that's
about
a
it.
lot of this movie and a lot of these most recent movies.
Yeah.
I'm praying they can get it back on the rails.
They're
They
not.
can pull
It's
out
over.
another
It's
masterpiece
so over.
like Seven.
There's no 7. It's not coming back. I'm sorry.
I know.
I mean, we'll talk about them maybe when they come out.
Maybe
I guess.
if we can like pass it off to like an interesting director. The problem is now is like we had like a pretty consistent vision for like the middle chunk of like Fast 4 to like Fast
7.
5, 6, because that was all Justin Lin, or most of
Sure.
it was like Justin Lin, or at least he had like a vision with it, like a.
But it still
production.
it still felt like people sort of cared a little bit, even if the shit that was happening was dumb. But the 8th one and beyond, it's
We
just
have
a mess.
new director
It's
every
a mess.
time. The writers are probably different
Probably
every
on
time,
strike.
but they're all like
So-
writing the same thing. Yeah, it's just all corporate
Yeah.
bullshit, and it shows. And that's like. It's like, oh, cinema's dying or whatever.
Yeah, it
It's
bums
like-
you out because of when
it's
people
not-
throw around phrases like that,
Yeah.
they point at these big, very long-lasting franchises like this, or like the new Jurassic Park movie, or like whatever random other things we were talking about that on that other podcast of ours that people should listen to after this video if they haven't already. But like and good movies are certainly still coming out, but it's movies like this last one especially that really points towards that like
the problem.
people are like
Where
it
it's like-
feels overwhelming.
What were the budgets of these movies?
Oh, this
These
one
most
was
recent ones,
a
I
lot because this one also had a lot more CGI, and same with F9 and
Yeah.
Hobbs and Shaw, I think maybe. They get more CGI heavy, and with that comes
lot.
I think a lot more money.
Yeah, the budgets of these movies are just ballooning, and the quality is declining. And you'd think they'd, I don't know, come to some sort of realization, but I guess it's still making money. So
They're
that's
making
the
money.
thing. It's like,
And so it's going to keep going.
It-
And even like, because they're saying like, oh, it'll end in these next two, which they already said by Fast 5 or whatever, they're going to be like, it ends in the 6th or 7th one. and then we get more
I love
after
doing
that. And then Fast X is like,
It
it's
ends
gonna be
when Vin
it's-
Diesel
it's gonna
says it ends,
I know.
okay?
I guess that's the rule this time. It's just follow whatever he fucking says. I don't know. So yeah, that sucked.
That was our journey through. I guess
Yeah.
what final ratings for Fast?
Oh
X
yeah,
is
2
like-
for me out of
yeah,
10.
Yeah, I think I have it.
I
as
don't
a
even know
3,
what
but
helps it.
They're all 2s, 3s. Like,
Yeah.
they're not so bad that like they're notable.
Mhm.
Because like when I rate something like a 1 out of 10, it's like, whoa, I'm gonna remember this movie for how bad it is.
Sure.
Like this is something I will remember and like stick out to me. This is the benchmark for how bad it is.
Yeah.
These are not even that bad.
I'll remember them as a whole, my thoughts and feelings, especially since we talked about
Yeah.
it now and I've seen them twice. But yeah, like individually as films, like I'm not gonna remember shit from
No.
them. I mean, I already don't remember shit from them, and I saw some of them yesterday. I saw one of them
I just
yesterday, and
reviewed
one of them
most
2 years.
of them, and man, that's just
Yeah,
so
and
good.
we are being very negative here at the end because I mean the movies are shit there. I think there are some good aspects to them. Maybe I mean, I don't expect people to be like super pissed off at us for people who like enjoyed the series
hard.
because I mean, people who have watched these movies and enjoy them probably know all the flaws about them and probably have
Yeah.
heard people
you have to be aware.
count like just so many times hear people shit on
Mm-hmm.
them because they are very easy to shit on them, and that may or may not be the reason why we decided to focus on these. But hopefully, you know, in this video, we're coming across as
I think
new,
we
different
have put in the
perspectives.
work. We have watched all of them,
And we're not just sounding like the same groups of people saying the same things
not
about
to
them.
be haters.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have enjoyed some of these movies.
Yeah, we've tried our best to display that, no matter how hard it may try. And you got one of your
got one
favorite
movie
films
that
of all
I
time.
really enjoy.
It's on your top 100.
It's like it's hard to. I guess I don't know when I'm gonna watch that again. I will want to watch it again, but it's like it's the
When I
seventh
see
movie
you
in
again.
11. It's like when do I just put that on and
I
check
don't
it
know.
out? I'll do it because it's fucking it's cinema. But
Mm-hmm.
the rest of these movies it's a roller coaster, up and down. The story.
I want to call it up and down. It's mostly like down, and then
mostly-
some of the downs
like,
are a little bit downer than the other
yeah.
downs. And then for you, it's like, oh shit.
That's
For me though, it's very
it's a very interesting franchise that
Totally.
I have been enjoying going through.
of a weird
I'm
thing of
glad
like
I would check it out.
of new shits. Like the first 3 coming out are pretty different from one another, and then
Because they have been like super influential. Just like even the first one came on the scene. Obviously, it was a big thing in that kind of era, late 90s, early 2000s. Like, oh, cars and girls. Super
Sure.
cool. That's like
and that
the
appeals
coolest thing of
to
all
a
time.
great crowd of
Yeah.
people.
But then you get it on the big screen and everything, all those
Yeah,
car
it's changed a
movies
lot
and-
since then, and the two of us, I guess, will continue to see where
Mm-hmm.
this pursuit of them and us goes from there. So subscribe for more to see us when we talk about FFX2, Final Fantasy X-2
go.
in 5 years from now, when that movie comes out and we see that.
And then Final Fantasy
Ooh.
X3.
Ooh.
And then
then
we go
11.
to
They call the 15th movie 11 or something.
Fast, Furious,
Furiously Fast.
Fast
Something.
and Furious. Are they gonna bring the Does back? You think they're ever gonna bring the Does
They
back?
might.
That's
I think.
the real thing.
I mean,
If
with
we bring
with time, anything can
the
come back.
Fast X, the Fast X part.
You're gonna
2.
bring back the '90s clothes and shit too.
Yeah, man.
The '90s nostalgia will hit in 10 years when the millennials are in charge of these movies. Peter, just imagine all the potential there.
If
I'm joking.
they make
Fuck that.
anything, if they do anything new with this franchise,
So,
it would
yeah,
be
same,
a
same.
benefit to it.
And I hope I don't look forward to, but I hope that they will do something like that. I'll be there for it. Maybe not day one, checking out those movies instantly, but maybe a little bit after. Whenever we get around to it, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll do it for now, I guess. Unless, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Thank you for watching, people of the YouTube space. Comment below your thoughts and feelings on all of the every single
one of
movie.
the movies.
Lord
And if you
dump
haven't
us.
watched
Lord dump
any of
us all
them,
of your opinions.
Watch them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can understand. What
If you haven't watched all the movies, retcon your life to go back before you watch this video and then watch all of them and then come back and watch it here. No one will know that
then-
you actually didn't watch all of the movies and then watch
your,
this
your
movie.
secret brother, who you may not realize you have right now, but trust me,
You do.
look back at your life. He was there. He was always there.
Yeah, but seriously, thanks for watching and look forward to more stuff in the future from us.